So yeah, if y'all don't know what we do Reactception. We are literally going to react to Josh reacting to this video. Both of us lived through these eras, so you get both of our experiences, and I can kind of talk with him, see if anything I felt about differently. Just kind of the 2014 recap for Yu-Gi-Oh! See how it is. React to react, let's go. So before we begin, make sure to go give a like and give some credit to the original creators. So Josh, obviously, as well, the Plus channel. I'll send the video here. You can go give it a like. And then the original video as well, importantly, needs to be given its due recognition. The 2014 recap, the Law YGO. I'll give a sub there if you haven't already as well. So 2014, this year, this was still during my bubble streak from before I got my first top. My first top would happen the next year, 2015. And this point was still me growing into my own as a player. A lot of bad ideas were made in this era from my behalf. Part of the journey, getting better at the game. And yeah, this was a couple events in a row where I did not top, and I was close. I'm pretty sure this year. Yeah, I know, like WCQ, but we'll get to that as we go in. Interesting year for Yu-Gi-Oh! I personally like the second half this year a lot more than the first half of the year, but a lot of people do like the WCQ format for this year. So we can talk about that. I think there's a lot of toxic stuff though, and it's really not like my cup of tea.
2013, a Tier 0 menace was raging on. With the last two YCSs of the year, we saw Dragon Rulers absolutely take over for a second time that year, with the main culprit this time being that of six
ended with Dragon Ruler last year.
Is there echo? Oh, I can turn down my speakers a little bit.
The Ravine Rulers, yeah.
Regardless of the roll's result. With such an impressive card causing a Tier 0 reign for Dragon Rulers right at the end of the year, a ban list would be put in place on January 1st, 2014. And knowing that, the hit shouldn't be surprising. Newly banned were Dragon Ravine, Return from the Different Dimension, and
Dude, I did not remember.
Is he sure Ravine got banned? I don't remember Ravine getting banned. I think Josh about to say the same thing.
Dragon Ravine was a banned card.
Was Ravine really banned? It's funny that Josh said that because I also don't remember Ravine being banned. But now that he said it, maybe I'm like Mandela affecting it into my memory. That was Ravine banned.
Like, looking back at Ravine Ruler format, 6 cents and Return absolutely deserved to get banned at that time. Ravine? I didn't even remember this.
Sense.
I forgot about Ravine, yeah.
Button, a card that simply had caused too many headaches.
But that's a super duper lame hit, by the way. That is like such a... You should have just hit the Dragon Ruler hit, basically, is what that is. Just hit the rulers.
But the rulers were hit.
Newly limited were all
right?
Dragon Rulers, three Dragon.
If they limited all the rules, they did not need to ban Ravine.
Yeah, exactly, right? It just made no sense.
I don't
Divine Wind of the Mist Valley in response to a couple of FTK brews that were popping up using Harpy Dancer. Final Countdown is a hit to the popular stall deck.
Popular stall deck.
Of Fate is a hit to the remaining card, and Magician of Faith returning from the ban section to
yeah, and then everyone pops off. Oh, Magician of Faith, go format, and it's just terrible.
Lastly, newly unlimited were Archlord Christia, Constellar Ptolemy M7, Mizuki, Blade Spreader Zombie, TG Striker, Tour Guide from the Underworld, and Fire.
So a lot of the 2011 hits, which kind of being undone, right?
Overall, this ban list did one thing major, which was killing the Tier 0 version of Dragon Rulers, knocking out a majority of the heavy hitters from the deck, as well as
it still saw a bit of play, especially when Soul Charge came out.
In addition to this, the
then yeah, dragons were not big.
That besides the unnecessary hit to Dragon Ravine, that was still a pretty good ban list.
A week later.
Overall, it was pretty good.
The format slowed down so much after this. It was a huge shift.
A lot more relevant later in the year as a game closer. As the first event of the year, YCS Sydney would take place on January 19th and would ring in the year.
Was this the first Sydney? Was it when the Karakuri one, right?
Previous half a year. The field here had devolved a bit
are we entering Fire Water format now?
Ruler era, with Fire Fist being the standout deck of the event. Although notably, when I say Fire Fist, I primarily mean a Beast Warrior control pile with Fire Fist Bear at the center. So take that with a grain of salt. Anders Co would take the event on
this was the first Sydney. And look at this pile that won. Out of all like the good decks, he won with Karakuri, and there's just spam like level 5 whatever, level 4s, and then summon tuner, make Burrito attack. It's almost a miracle that this won. First core set is Legacy of the Valiant, right? Legacy of the Valiant was crazy.
Take the spot of the new top deck.
That's the card he decides to show. Yeah, Exiton, that was the big one. Holy shit.
Release date, January 24th, 2014.
Oh, dude, Silent Honor Arc was such a cool card.
Set type, core set.
I'm Team Exiton. Exiton is so huge in how you played your games. Especially as a control deck.
Wave of support for two archetypes from the tail end of 2013 to try and change something about their position in the metagame. The new archetype was Sylvan, a series of plant monsters that also brought with them a new keyword to the form of excavation.
I really...
Don't tell this to Patrick Hope.
Oh, what is he saying?
Bujin was never that good. Don't tell him that, though.
In which you reveal a set number of cards from the...
Tell this to Patrick Hoban. Is that what he said?
Patrick Hoban, Bujin was never that good. Don't tell him that, though.
In which you reveal a set number of cards from the top...
Oh, he means Sylvan. Oh, I was about to say, I actually really thought that Sylvan was... I like, before they popularized it, I wanted to give it more of a try, because, like, reading cards like Sylvan Charity from, like, the next set, I was like, these cards have to be like playable. And I mean, I'm happy that I was kind of right, although I obviously am not the one who did well with it. And I also definitely had like many deck flaws with how I built the deck because I was young and bad. But this deck I thought had a lot of potential. Was it the best deck like in the room? No, I don't like. It was not that good. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't that good, but I also don't think it was that bad. And it definitely was not playable off this set. Without Sage Akoya and what's it called? And Charity, this deck was not playable. Right, Excavate. Yeah, this was a new thing.
Cards and send plants you find to the graveyard, putting the rest back on bottom of the deck, and the other triggering when excavated and sent to grave. These included Peace.
What did Duality say before? I think it was just like, I don't know, reveal
top three cards or something, yeah.
Or something like that.
Who could excavate 1 on summon and revive a level 4 lower plant if excavated. Kumashurmo, who excavated up to 5 on being flipped and pops a spell.
This card is nice. Back then in these slow formats, setting a flip monster actually like did something. This card was good.
Trap when excavated. Marshall Leaf, who excavates up to 2 on normal and pops a monster if excavated. Hermitry, who can excavate 1.
Open played Sylvan, not Bujin. Oh, that's what I meant. I meant Sylvan. Did I say Bujin? I meant Sylvan. Sylvan was like, Sylvan to me, it was a cool deck. It was fun. I just never thought it was that good. And I still don't think it really was good at the time.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously this is not the right format for Sylvan to be good, but I mean, like, I do think Dragon and Infernity were just better Soul Charge decks than Sylvan, but like the deck was fine.
It was just really high rolly, and basically it was around that time that like there was like Patrick Hoban was like propagating this idea of you need like maximum ceiling, whatever deck can do the most is the best deck, and all that stuff, you know. And Sylvan was like, if it worked, it was the highest ceiling basically.
I don't think that's even true. I think Infernity was still bigger.
It didn't work that often. It wasn't that good really.
Once per turn and can rearrange the top 3 of your deck when excavated. Also, a rank 8 that can declare a card name once per turn.
This card was sick. I love Alsay. That one's nice. And you randomly can pick the top card of your deck and you get it right. Draw it.
Field spell Mount Sylvania. Ghosttrick would receive a new wave of support here in Jack Frost, who can summon itself when the opponent attacks you directly.
Ooh, Jack Frost.
Face down. Mary, who can be discarded when you take damage to summon a Ghosttrick from deck.
Jack Frost was playable later. That card was cool. We'll see it pop up in a winning deck list about 4 years later. Oh yeah, people did play Jack Frost as like a random stall engine. But like, so you didn't even just play it in that. With Mary, what you would do is you could play it in like Medulce, because Medulce was really strong, where what you wanted to do was combo it with a level 3 monster plus a Who Cake, because then you Who Cake for Gelato, you search, and then you go Invoker, summon another Gelato, make Tiramisu. That was like the standard setup. Mary was good because it put a card in the grave and it set Jiangshi. So Jiangshi would then flip up and search another Mary. So you'd be able to do it again next turn. And then your Gelato would search Chateau and add back the Who Cake. So you'd have Who Cake and Mary in hand to do it again, right? So you have to do enough pressure to the point where you couldn't keep like looping that. And that was like a not terrible viable strategy that got a couple top cut places. And like there were other Ghosttrick decks as well, because let's just set up rank 3 plays. I know Jeff Jones I don't think he topped it, but he had a feature with his deck he called Red Rum. Obviously that's like backwards from murder, but it was like a rank up magic deck with the new Astral Force, which wasn't as good yet because there was no Dante for Pallades. But you could still go like Mech-Whipped Engineer into Tiras, or you could do Alucard into Bram from the last set from Shadow Specters. And like both were solid plays. Arasuda, right? This card was not that good. It's fine. Also, very playable. Hair was really good. I hated Bujin. I don't know who likes Bujin. If you like Bujin, you're weird. This shit was not fun. Kaiser Coliseum Yamato was so unfun.
We take the support and run with it to be a solid potential strategy in the upcoming metagame, and the support did a lot to reinforce that. Moving into notable standouts, Kalantosa would be a very notable inclusion for the level 2 Earth B strategy. Able to pop a card on field.
Kalantosa?
Now that I'm seeing all this set really wasn't all that great. I mean, we're going to talk about Exciton Knight and Honor Arc in a second. Those are like generically good staples, but all of the archetypes here, I feel like were kind of lackluster overall. Like they had competitive impact.
Yeah, and that's exactly why we saw this format shaped the way it will, right? We'll see how the decks are. All the archetypes that are played are just old archetypes because these archetypes just suck. Obedience School also comes out here, which is cool for this. And some people played like the Raccoon deck with Pampoko or Tantan. But yeah.
But only really because they had killed everything, or like a lot of the stuff that was previously actually good. And people didn't really know what else to play. And then secretly, honestly, in 2014, the best decks are still the decks from before Dragon Rulers.
Yep.
Like it was
Fire and Mermail.
To play
yeah.
the new stuff, and they maybe thought it was
and
better,
Gear.
but it wasn't,
Yeah,
like,
Fire and Mermail Gear.
And you're like, okay, technically after this, you should still only be playing like Mermail, Fire Fist, and Infernity, right? Like you shouldn't be playing those new decks.
Infernity, you need a Soul Charge to come out for it to be playable though. But Geargia, I think he's getting Geargia because between like Geargia's last bit at being playable and this point, Geargia Gear had come out but just not had a chance to be played because obviously it can't compete with Dragon Rulers. Although technically Sam Pedigo, remember, did win in 2013 the 125th with Geargia, like in the last recap. So Geargia as well, something we can't forget about.
Tackle Crusader could, when sent to grave, flip a monster face down or bounce a spell trap the opponent controls to hand, being a solid piece in rock decks moving forward. In the same vein, Gorgonic Guardian is a rock-locked rank 3 that
Oh, is this where Sakitama comes out? Yeah.
Also able to, on your turn only, destroy a monster with 0 attack. While incredibly powerful, the rank 3 rock restriction was just a bit too much
I've never
at
seen
the
this card being summoned.
but it would see rogue level experiment.
I've summoned this card in Cube a bunch, but yeah, this card obviously like 2 rocks. I think it's also in the battle pack draft, and then you can use it there.
Now, this card was genuinely crazy at the time. Like, Honor Arc was good, and everyone played Honor Arc, but Exicon was insane.
In your main phase or the opponent's battle phase.
I just remember there's so many times you have to be so careful with how many cards you had in hand or field. And there were many like high-level plays where you'd intentionally neg yourself just so that you didn't lose to this card. And then there were so many bad players who would lose winning game states because they didn't play around this and just lost 5 cards at once. And this card was just so insane. The fact that it's a quick effect just means stuff like Bottomless whatever just doesn't work. OG Zeus, exactly. This card is just insane. This card was super cool.
Field and in hand is more than you. Nuke the field except for itself, being one of the best rank 4s due to either being a setup breaker or providing a layer of protection going into the opponent's turn, demanding a removal prior to the battle phase. Lastly, for the Exceed pool would be Downer.
Obviously, 101 being like removal and protection from destruction was really good, and it was removal that didn't destroy.
In addition to the Exceed pool additions, the generic synchro pool would also receive Leo, Keeper of the Sacred Tree.
Oh, Leo! This card was very important because there were no. So this is, I think, the first level 10 synchro that required 2 monsters that was generic, and its effect was actually pretty good. So this mattered because a lot of the players were playing Mermail with Genix Undyne, so they'd have Genix Controller and Teus or Megalo, and then they'd have really easy access to this card, right? And playing versus a trap deck, this was a pain in the ass, especially if you just wanted to sit and build up resources, kind of accrue until you had a kill shot. You just never go to the battle phase, never go to main phase 2, and you never be able to kill this.
Becoming the premier level 10 generic synchro overnight. Rank up Magic Astral Force is a spell that can target an Exceed to overlay another Exceed onto. That is the same attribute to
Reaction is hilarious. I thought this card is cool, but yeah, no, it wasn't that good. Like, people tried it in BA, and it just wasn't worth the spots. But this card is cool.
How much was Exicon when it came out? I want to say like 90.
It was a lot. Exicon was a lot.
It had SP Little. It had SP Little Knight levels of expensive for sure. Like it would fluctuate a little bit, but it was definitely up there. Like, I believe in the early weeks after the release, you could maybe get him for like 70, 80. I don't know exactly, but then eventually I think it was $100.
It was a lot. It was a lot. I think that's like 120 Canadian for us.
How good it was, even played 2, I think. Yeah.
Their normal draw for turn. Not seeing any play now, but would find an incredibly interesting niche in the coming months. Shared Ride lets you draw a card every time the opponent adds a card from grave to hand, except by drawing, being a searcher equivalent to Max C.
Shared Ride. Shared Ride, I do not like. It's just Max C too. I don't like the lingering stuff. It's not as bad as Max C, but it's not great either.
And this event would be the first of many this
year. Yeah, see, there you go. Not even the format isn't even solved yet, but people already.
I'll let him talk first. I want to talk about this too.
New stuff, like it's all kind of bad. Bujin was like, all right, but yeah.
We're going to refer.
What the hell is Lightsworn doing in here? What the hell did Lightsworn top in 2014 still? I don't remember that. That's hilarious. But yeah, but Fire, Geargia, Mermail, right? Those are the 3 real decks. More books than I remembered. Oh yeah, people played Heradic Dragon Ruler. Right. Heradic Dragon Ruler was a deck. I did forget about that.
Referred to as half-sealed events. For context, this year specifically, we'd see almost every YCS that took place in North America run a standard constructed event until top 16, at which point all players would swap to doing a draft event using whatever the current battle pack was.
I love draft. I wish I got to play draft on Top Cut.
It would still be indicative of what decks were performing the best in the meta, but it doesn't mean that the deck that won the event would be the best deck of the event. Rather, with a winner used to reach top 16. With all that preamble out of the way, Fire Fist, or more specifically the Bear deck as Konami's official coverage refers to it, would continue to take the lion's share of the top cut, even being pioneered by Christian Jorge.
The Bear deck? That was Christian George's?
Geargia was another very notable standout here, rising into a dominant position with the discovery of Geargia gear being able to swarm with the Geargiano pieces.
Yeah, right. Like this, Sam Pedigo won with this deck as well. It's interesting how we started shifting away from these tuners though, because they started being bricky, especially when you're staring down all these trap cards. You definitely wouldn't want to have these tuners in your deck. You just start grinding with gears. For sure.
Synchro access. Heradic would crack into the top cut with multiple showings here.
Yeah, this deck was cool, right? Because this is something that was talked about. This gained some rep at ARGs, I'm pretty sure, where they'd use this to send the Harassment deck to grave, and they also returned banished cards, so it fueled the Dragon Rulers a lot better. It was slow, but you had infinite value in a sense. I still hate a Reckless Griever. People love this card, and you get to play Skill Drains. It's very weird thinking this is like a trap deck, but like you had to get a bit of traps, even though I guess these 6 aren't really traps. This deck was interesting.
So notably was the Heradic Ruler variant in all cases. The Dragon Rulers have found their next core to latch onto and ride into metal.
This deck was so fun. This deck was so fun, and this is a rare. I want to say this is a rare Josh Market W, so we have to talk about this one because they don't happen very often.
Oh, did he make a good investment?
Seal of the Ashes trap card that you see right here.
They were worthless.
Trap that lets you return banished dragons to the graveyard and lets you foolish Hieratics from the deck. So it like loads up your graveyard to keep bringing back the Dragon Rulers. And it was a secret rare that ever since it's been printed, which I don't even know when that was, has not seen a single ounce of play. No
I
one
think it
ever
was in
played that card.
2013. I think it was a
And,
promo.
It was like Galactic Overload, yeah, something like that. Galactic Overlord. It was like a 50-cent secret rare or something like that at the time. And I picked these up because I was sometimes talking to Patrick Hoban at the time via like Facebook Messenger or something like that. And he would, I think it was his idea. I don't remember exactly, but he told me about like, he asked me like, what do you think of this card? You know, I was thinking about doing
So,
and so on and so forth.
Hoban made him
went
some
ahead
money.
And I ordered some. Only 3 though. I only ordered 3 for myself.
Oh,
I didn't do
that's
a
nothing.
marketing.
Only
I think it went
3.
up like crazy after this deck, Tom. This might even be Patrick Hoban's list. I don't know. It has upstarts, so it could very well be. But
And Reckless Greeds.
that was one of the rare market Josh market W's because I knew he was going to.
Yeah, they went up. They went up quite a bit. I don't remember how much, but they were definitely like maybe $40 or
This
whatever.
time was notably less powerful due to only having one
I never got a chance to play this deck. I just didn't like all these Reckless Greeds. I didn't think the card was very good. Also, sometimes it felt a bit slow. I didn't love this deck.
relying more heavily on
When I played against it, I never felt that like it was that challenging. Core. That came out now?
Really?
Cyber Dragon
Dude.
Revolution. Release date February 7th.
Dude, I remember Cyber Dragon Core
Major strategy.
was one of the coolest, one of my favorite cards for a while. Not favorite cards, but like, I would just think like, damn, like this card is sick. It's like a Mali-esque graveyard effect, banshee special on others from the deck. And like that was just so dope. And then you'd have that to be Chimera Tech. So I remember I later played it in BA because I could mill it. And then versus Cosmo, I would just fuse their field away like, later in the game.
Cyber Dragon. Impact, a couple of specifically useful cards. Cyber Dragon Revolution was the first of 3 structure decks this year aimed at taking...
I think Super Poly was in here and it cost a shit ton of money.
Full modern strategy out of it. In the case of Cyber Dragon, the idea was to make swarming with them far easier to enable Exceed Blaze. Their new cards here included Core, who's considered Sidra on field and in grave, searched a Cyber spell trap on normal.
This card was cool. Yeah, I love this card.
Banish itself from grave to summon a Cyber Dragon monster from the...
I don't even think this deck had any impact until we got Infinity a year later. I
No,
don't remember people playing this deck much
did not.
or at all.
People liked Nova a little bit, but like, because it had the bonus effect special of Cyber Dragon back from the grave, but it was not good.
On effect destruction by the opponent, and
No,
repair...
Maxi is still at 3. It was in the side deck in the other deck list. It's
Was
still at
it?
3. It's hard, and this is hard to comprehend for modern Yu-Gi-Oh players. Back then, Maxi was not always an auto-include at 3. We're starting to get to the position where it will be soon in these recaps. Like, but historically, we are at a point in Yu-Gi-Oh where the card is not yet always insane.
Yeah, no, it was more
In all
format
decks,
dependent. Like in the
especially
Dragon
this
format, it
Maxi
wasn't
is
auto
not
include a
good.
3, but
They normal summon and pass a lot of the times. Maxi is only good on like Wolfbark. Maybe if they play the Rescue Rabbit version of like Fire Fist with vanilla. Some people did that. Some madmen. But like the average outcome with Maxi against Fire Fist is you either never get to use it, you maybe get a 1-for-1 out of it, and if you wait very long, maybe you get maximum a +1. So like the card isn't actually that good in this format.
plant, which can use
Yeah, it's better versus
one
Mermail.
being the light machine or shuffle back
You get into a very trap heavy format. I think Duelist Alliance saw Maxi become staple though, because that was a huge power
By
spike.
being a Cyber Dragon that you could normal summon and ducks under bottomless, it became a side deck option to use against machine decks to make Chimera Tech Fortress Dragon without risking tripping back row. The second was Nova, as while it wouldn't be played at all for the time being, Nova was one of those cards that would be broken wide open in early 2016 for reasons out of its control, but we'll get to those soon enough. Reprints here included Sidra, Cyber Valley, Super Poly, MST, Trapstun, and Deprisoned to name a
The
few.
Super Poly is
YCS
big. Prison is also big.
And from the results here,
That card
Chimera
was
Tech
worth quite a bit.
portion of the representation, with Alpay and Jean taking first place using a trap-heavy, reckless greed build of Mermail.
Why does he have a story here? Because that was a pretty big reaction. You let
Hold
him.
up.
Obviously, I was not a competitor to these, so I have no idea what happened.
Dude.
I don't remember that well.
I topped YCS Berlin with no sleep. It was like I had a really rough start to YCS Berlin. Is this a dweller? No, this is not the dweller. Sorry. At YCS Berlin, I was X2 really early, and at the time you needed to go X2 to top, and so I won all the rounds towards the end of day 1. But for some reason, I wasn't really feeling it. I wasn't really feeling confident at that tournament because I lost twice relatively early, and I don't know. So when the others were like, after day 1 of YCS Berlin, they were like, "Yeah, we're gonna go out. Are you gonna join us?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." And so we went out. I wasn't really able.
I don't think he screwed himself, but
and then on the next day, I also couldn't really speak, which is a whole nother issue when you're trying to play Yu-Gi-Oh. And so like I somehow I ended up winning out on day 2, and terrible idea, by the way. Don't do that. And like I lost. I won top 32, and I played Mermail. And this is not something to be proud of, by the way. Well, playing Mermail is something to be incredibly proud of, but doing what I did is not something to be proud of. But then in top 16, what I'm trying to get to is the reason I lost in top 16 is so freaking embarrassing because I was so tired. I played against Fire Fist, and I made Exiton.
Did he have more
just changed
cards?
My Exiton when I activated it, right? And the way Exiton is worded, it's actually not once per turn, but it's once per chain. So it's not like Zeus, where you can go effect, they try to negate it, you chain it again. But you can technically activate Exiton, and then later on you can activate it again, right? So what I did, my opponent had like 2 set cards and like a bunch of monsters, and I summoned Exiton, used the effect, they Fiendish chain it. I summoned Dracosac, and I pop like one of the monsters instead of popping the Fiendish Chain and using Exiton again, instantly winning the game. And so that's how I lose. Like that was game 3, I think. So yeah, I threw really hard because I hadn't slept the night before, which was really annoying.
Held 2 weeks later, and from the results here, the Bear deck and Mermail would split the main portion of the representation.
Yeah, so someone in the chat did say that Fire King got on top. Yeah, Fire King was a playable deck here. I did not like this deck. Playing the big bricks in your deck felt ass. And I don't think Fire King Island was out yet. I'm pretty sure Fire King Island was just not out. It didn't come out until like a year later, I think. I do not think the deck was good, but I know some people liked it and it got a couple top cut spots here and other events in North America as well.
With Alpay and Jean taking first place using a trap-heavy, reckless greed build of Mermail.
Yeah, this is almost what I played because Alpay and I were in the same team at the time. I played, I don't know if I think the list wasn't the exact same probably, but like
I remember the Aqua Spirits. One Megalo felt so weird. We didn't get the same value with 1 Dragoons, and Diva was at 1 as well. It's probably just somewhere lurking over there. Yeah, I mean this was still cool though, but it didn't feel the same. The Turd stuff was nuts. This is probably like a Divas and some guns under this year. I really did not like Reckless. Ugh.
It was I think there's a deck profile out there, but it was the I was also playing Reckless Greed. This was the only time in my entire however many years of playing Yu-Gi-Oh that I have activated 3 Reckless Greeds in one turn at a tournament.
That feels nice.
3 Reckless Greeds in like round 10 or something like that.
Why didn't people play Undyne at this point? So Undyne fell off originally when Abysteus came out, and then it started slowly getting more play at this point as people had to readjust to the new format Mermails. And people didn't really have a concise or like a decisive, you know, agreement on which version was the best. There were different ways to play Mermails, all relatively similar, but there were plenty of people who did play Undyne. This is probably the most like mixed out of all the Mermail decks like you'll ever see in any Mermail format, because you think for Euros they played it again. Yeah, it definitely wasn't like a set thing, but I think more and more people did start re-including it in their deck, but it wasn't like every deck did. And it was nice because of Leo, where now, like before Genex Controller, its uses were a lot worse. And committing to a normal summon, like what were you going to synchro with? You could only synchro with something you got off Sphere. Now, if you had Tejas plus Controller, it made Leo, which is a real thing. Yeah, I mean, that's a big one, right? Also, less normal summons to deck because Diva was at 1. Where, like, in the original Mermail format, Diva would take up a normal summon a lot more of the time.
So I just like Omega killed them the turn after. It was crazy. They were really mad.
Jean taking first place using a trap-heavy, reckless greed build of Mermail. YCS Sao Paulo would be held 2 weeks later, and while this event was also a half-draft event, the draft would be everything
Chain burn.
So the decks listed here did not necessarily earn a spot in the top cut.
Stun. Yeah, stun. Something's never changed, man. It never changed. It seems great in retrospect with Leo and always getting a search for me normal. Isn't it just better than Diva? Nah, Diva was nuts. Diva was really strong, but Diva was at 1. It also didn't require you playing the bricks. It also like, didn't run out of gas, where Undyne, like, it would stop being effective relatively quickly. It was nice, though, that you get to use stuff like Wing Blast in your Mermail deck as well. Because obviously you have the synergy with the Gund, or you can discard a controller, and that was cool. Playing the Allure Darkness was also something I liked in Mermail, where you can just allure away the controller. It wasn't bad. I just, like, you really... I was talking to Pack about it, but we're talking about this old format, and he just didn't really understand how good Diva was in the Mermail deck. It was really good. It was really strong. And I don't really know how to explain it. But, like, it applied way more pressure because it gave you so many different synchro options. It gave you access to like to marksman to then make like a Leviathan to pop a back row or attack directly to summon a Dragoons, or you can get infantry for an extra normal summon, then synchro again, or make Gachi. Like, and that card was fine as well. It was just really good. You had so many flexible options with it. Also set up so many easy OTKs. Like the easy OTK was like Megalo Diva, and then you tribute the Diva. Megalo attack twice, marksman 14, and summon Dragoon 18. That's 8,000. And it was a pretty easy OTK setup as well.
By the deck's merits. So take the top cut here with a grain of salt. Carlos Araujo will
chamber always
able to take down 4 rounds in a row in the slim down matchup spread.
Harpies, I forgot this one.
And it was back to using sealed play out from top 16. So the top 32 decks here did earn their top.
Is this the Ghosttrick Midultra deck? I think this is the Ghosttrick Midultra deck. It should be Ghosttrick Midultra. Yeah, there are some Fire Kings here again. Infernity. I can't believe Infernity really topped without Soul Charge, because Soul Charge was not legal yet. I was at this event. How did I do? I'm trying to remember. I think I shat the bed at this event. I think this event did not do well. I think I got last minute talked into playing a deck I did not know how to play. And the deck was fine. I just did not know how to play it. I talked into playing Gears. And I've been playing Fire and Water mostly. And I knew both those decks. I did not know Geargia. And my friends told me to play Gears without the tuners. And that was a good deck. Like, they definitely had a better deck for the event. like as a friend whose opinion I trusted, but I just wasn't like, I didn't know the plays with the deck very well, and I didn't know intricacies, and I was just behind. I think I went 6-3. I was like, so like I lost round 1 at day 2 or round 1 last round day 1. I did not make it to the bubble, but I was close, but it wasn't that good either. I remember thinking that it wasn't great. I do remember getting triple trap stunned, or I had like 5 aggro with Geargia, and thinking I'll be good in the mirror. And my opponent trap stun. He's playing the Karakuri version, trying to OTK me, and I 7 tools it, and he trap stuns again. I 7 tools it again, and then he's a third one, and then I OTKs me, and I was very tilted. But I mean that's Yu-Gi-Oh.
With Bujin once again close behind the pack, Tom Mock would take the event using Bujin to claim his top 16 position before the draft, moving the deck away from its stun roots to a more
I hate this deck.
strategy with Bujin.
There's no Kaiser Coliseum. This guy was giving people a chance. Kaiser Coliseum was the big poo poo here. Kaiser Coliseum Yamato is just so frustrating. Like in retrospect, like this deck doesn't even look consistent. How are you not playing 3 upstarts? You don't see Yamato, your deck is terrible. But like, how is this enough? Dude, this deck sucks.
Covering its board flooding. This event would be directly before the year's Gold Series, and while the past few years had hit a solid groove with the sets, this year's would be different to say the least.
Is that an example of a good diverse format? Fire Water? I like, okay. Technically, yes. I do think Fire Water format is a good format to go back into, and it is potentially a format that has the potential to become a very cool Time Wizard format. Because there is, so if you ask me, there was only really one deck during that time, and that was Water. I loved Mermail. If you ask others, they would answer the same thing, but they would say Fire instead, because they preferred Fire. Those were like the 2 main things, the 2 main questions, like do you play Fire or do you play Water, amongst like really competitive players at the time. But I think
Gear. I think he's really underestimating Gear. Maybe it wasn't in Europe, but Gear was the other big one.
They completely exclude everyone else from playing something different, right? You can play a lot of other stuff in that format and succeed with it. They're not better than Fire Water, but they're like still very, very good. And then there's Infernity, which is kind of annoying because Infernity was like secretly, I think during a large portion of 2014, Infernity is like secretly really, really good, but people didn't really realize it until it wins Worlds this year. But
I think it didn't really become actually good until Soul Charge though.
Could ruin like Time Wizard format because Infernity is it's a cool deck. I like it, but it's not that great. Post Soul Charge Infernity was the best by far. Yeah, maybe it's until Soul Charge when yeah, and people don't really. That's the thing. When there's so many decks in Yu-Gi-Oh, like people don't always revisit everything immediately, right? There's like not one card that comes out and people go, oh, this card would be really good in this deck from 3 years ago, right?
Premium Gold.
Oh, Beals. Wait, is this Beals? It is Beals, right?
Major strategies, the meta of the past year, OCG imports, all previous Gold Series.
Well,
Impact, a new take on the Gold Series formula. Premium Gold would be the first full shake-up of the Gold Series formula, not by introducing new rarities, although it did introduce the new Gold Secret Rare, but also by importing OCG cards in the set in addition to the reprints it normally provided, which included a block of 10 cards from each of the
I don't know how much I remember this.
21 new to Gold Rare cards. While most of these imports held no impact, there were a couple in
This probably wasn't a very important set. I don't remember much about it besides Beals. This card was overhyped. It was cool, but it was overhyped.
In addition to this, Ancient Pixie Dragon would be the Monka counterpart to Ancient Fairy
Dragon, terrible.
drawing 1 after activating Field Spell and
This is terrible.
Lastly, for the imports would be the Gimmick Puppet Monsters, which we've seen some of previously. The hero would finally
I hate Gimmick Puppet artworks, man. They all make me uncomfortable. Why did they make these?
You can special summon herself from grave by banishing another Gimmick Puppet from grave. Magnet Doll, able to special summon itself from hand if your opponent has.
That one's fine.
That's the idea. Yeah, but I don't like the idea.
And Junk Puppet, an archetypal revival spell, which gave Gimmick Puppets the material to actually consistently summon their rank 8, though would still be notably weak in the meta. Reprints here included Lone Fire, Honest, Veiler, Light Pulsar, Dark Flare, Eclipse Wyvern, Fire Fist Tiger.
Yeah, like, yo, I hated this. They used to always reprint these stupid structure deck cards. Nobody wants to reprint Grapha. Like, I have Grapha. I don't want it in a worse rarity now. Like, I actually just hated that they did that. It's so terrible. Like, if you want to reprint structure deck cards, give me a nicer rarity than not shitty secret gold rare.
The more we watch these, by the way, the more I realize they've always been hella late with these reprints. I don't know why we're even surprised at this point anymore. Like, why after playing this game for 20 years are we still surprised that the reprints are like 2 years late? Freaking Chaos Dragon reprints in 2014, that deck's been good.
It was also just a structure deck. Those cards were in a structure deck. This was a fucking common, Tenki. Like, what?
But in 2012.
Mirror Force, Torrential, Dad, Caius, Goldsark, Minecon, Bottomless, Judge
almost
Dragon,
all of these.
Mizuki, Plague Spreader, Ryo, Stardust, Armor Master, Armed Wing, Icarus Attack, Morphing Jar, BLS, Chaos.
This was the pack you guys are all hoping for now, so you can play your Edison and your Tengu Plans format again. They just gave it to you 10 years early, but also through 4 years too late.
To change what decks were good. Newly banned were Morphing Jar 1 and 2, which was directly targeted at Empty Jar, a rogue level annoyance that never seemed to crack the YCS circuit in recent months, though notably this ban came directly following Morphing Jar's reprint in Premium Gold. Newly limited were Wolfbark, a hit to the Bear deck, Abyss Gun, a hit to Mermail, Rekindling, a hit towards fire decks in general.
I forgot the hit gun.
And Infernity Barrier, a hit to Infernity. Newly semied were Seal of Convocation, a hit to Dragon Ruler's current best build, and Necroface, returning from 1. Lastly, unlimited were Magical Stone Excavation and Primal Seed, 2 points of cleanup.
That's a very weird ban list because it doesn't really change anything. It's only like very, very slight hit on the wrist.
I mean, I think it was a hit to Mermail, the
Like,
one gun
John
for sure.
was
It made
I
salvage
didn't,
like
I didn't even
better,
remember they
but
did that.
Overall, these hits were effectively slaps on the wrist for most of the top-performing decks in the meta. Though notably
You say late, I say early for Time Wizard. Fair enough. Fair enough.
lacked any hits towards Geargia, which was about as old, if not older, than the other decks getting hit. YCS Mexico City would be the testing grounds following the new list, being another sealed top 16, and notably the top 32 for the most part remained unchanged, with the same 4 decks taking the majority of representation yet again. Alejandro Suarez would take the event through the sealed draft, using mythic rulers to pilot himself into the top 16, seeing another Dragon Ruler variant that could still compete following the January list, though he did not make his list public. YCS Vegas
that's a shame. I was kind of curious.
For the remainder of the year, and following the success of mythic rulers in Mexico City,
Las Vegas, yeah, I was not at this one.
Should they bring back this sort of draft style thing? I don't know. On the one hand, I like draft. I think
I
it's
love
very
draft.
fun.
I would totally
On the
run it
other hand,
back.
What I find weird is doing this sort of 50-50 split. I find that
I don't think they'll do it. And there's no way they do
If
it.
I want to go to a draft tournament, I want to go to a tournament that is entirely draft. If I want to go to a
However, I would
tournament,
love
go
it
to
if
a
they
tournament
do.
that's entirely I don't know. Maybe that's not that bad. The problem is I haven't played in one of these. Right? I haven't played in one of these tournaments, the 50-50 ones, basically. So the way that these worked, in case that wasn't clear, is I believe it was the Swiss portion. You go to the YCS with your own deck, and you play Swiss rounds. And then if you make it into the top 32, you basically don't need your deck.
There's
anymore,
top 16.
Because then
Yeah.
you get booster packs from Battle Pack, and you build your deck with those. Or you draft. I don't know exactly if it was draft or sealed, whatever.
It was
You get-
draft.
you get
It was
your-
draft,
You
yeah.
basically have top cut with those. Other way around? Maybe is it the other way around?
No,
Oh, was it? Are you sure?
no.
I
Josh
don't
was
think it the other way.
closer
I'm
to
pretty sure
correct.
It was Swiss with real decks, because maybe the reason was they didn't want to deal with drafting with 1,000 people or something like that.
Drafting the 1,000 is bad. You
Maybe it was
can't. You
both ways. I
can't.
don't
You
know.
literally
It
can't
doesn't
draft
really
1,000
matter.
people.
get
You
the
have to
idea.
just do sealed.
Whatever. Yeah. And the only one that I know personally is I went to YCS Brussels, which was in 2013. We've looked at that recap already, and that was a YCS where it was only sealed. You didn't have to bring a deck. Basically, you got battle packs and you build your deck with those, and that was pretty fun. I know that it was pretty fun.
Representation slot. Geargia and Mermail would continue to take those lion's shares of the top cut, but notably, Firefist would see a rapid decline in its top cut performance following the limit of Wolf Park, which in turn limited the amount of recursive rank 4s the deck could make. Denny Yu would be crowned the winner following the sealed draft, making its top 16 using Heretic Ruler. Being
Yeah, the
another
Heretic
example of
deck.
ruler strategies
Oh, look, it's interesting. There's no Heretic Seal of Ashes here.
remaining in
Influence
this version of
Dragon,
the meta. This
be
would
out
lead to a
there.
new import set series premiering 2 weeks later, and though for the most part the OCG import sets up until now have been mostly unimpactful, this one was going to completely upend the balance of the meta as we knew it by introducing multiple meta warping threats.
Ooh, Guri Bandit was really cool. Oh, my boy,
Dragons
Mathematician.
of Legend. Release date April 25th, 2014.
Oh, no,
Set
no,
type,
not
import
that one,
set.
not that one.
Major strategies, Tamias, Hands.
Yep.
Impact, the beginning
This is one of the craziest side sets probably of all time. Soul Charge like steals the spotlight, but you can't forget how good cards like Fire and Ice Hand were, and Curry Bandit and Mathematician. Like those were all strong, and there might be other ones I'm forgetting, but those were all just insane.
of a beloved format. Dragons of Legend would be the first set in a long line of OCG import sets themed to the legendary dragons from
Beloved
season 4 of
format,
Lore
dude. I'm gonna get some haters when we watch the hat format portion right now. I'm not a fan of hat.
Neither am I. I'm glad Josh says that. I'm also not a fan.
A spell that lets you
Oh, also Carbonetting came out.
list it as material using only that monster. Able to access the classic Dark Paladin and Dark Flare Knight.
I mean, who
Also
cares
new
about this?
targets of Dark
Yeah.
Magician Girl, the Dragon Knight. A fusion
These
of
are worth money,
Dragon, able to
but
discard
that's
top
about
plus
it.
card once per turn in either player's turn. And Amulet Dragon, a fusion of Dark Magician and a dragon that can
And these
banish
weren't even out
any
yet,
grave on summon,
right?
and
It was
spell
just
by 100.
Amulet and Dark
Spell
Magician
back
Girl
to the
Knight.
grave on destruction. These were clearly trying to push a Dark Magician deck, but were far too little to get anything off the ground for that to be meta relevant. However, these were not the imports that had people talking, as there were 6 more imports in the set that would all hold meta relevance over the coming months. The first of these would be Curry Bandit, which in the end phase of the turn
Is it
normal
6?
contribute
What's
spell
the
to
sixth
Excavate
one?
5, add a spell trap from most to hand, and put the rest
Unless
of
he
the
mentions
pieces in the
Carbonetting,
same
but there's
target
no way
in
that's
the
the one he's
deck,
talking
but also
about.
holding power as a heavy mill tool. The next would be Mathematician, who on normal summon could bin
I
any
love
level 4 lower
Mathematician.
monster from deck to grave, drawing a card if destroyed by battle, being effectively a better version of Armageddon.
Mathman's probably my
Strategy
favorite of all
that
them.
after, like Card Trooper.
Or Mathman and Bandit are the
Next
best.
up is Wiretap, a countertrap that negates
Oh,
attacks.
Wiretap. Right. I forgot about Wiretap. That was huge.
Required a cost of some kind. The last 3, however, would be
This set was really cool. Outside of Soul Charge being way too broken, I really like, and I wish they did this more often, is if we had side sets that instead of giving us like useless archetypes that maybe become good in the future, I would like them to have more side sets that just have like a bunch of generic bangers. You know what I mean? Like just give me more like good
And
simple,
TCG
generic
exclusives
archetypes that
too.
maybe
They were cool. Or were
like
these
a couple decks
exclusives? I
rather
don't
than just
remember.
Giving me like 3 new archetypes every month, and we have to play a guessing game of which ones are good or not, right? Because it's impossible to tell whether a side set archetype is going to be good or not because it completely depends on if they get support in the main sets anyways, right? Well,
the most impactful of all. Fire and Ice Hand were a duo of cards that, on destruction, pop a monster in Fire Hand's case or a spell trap in Ice Hands, and if you do, floats into a copy of the other. These two would be a powerful control engine of sorts that would be splashed into almost everything over the coming months, representing 6 total pops if they go.
So I'm not sure if anyone's going to mention it, like Josh or the narrator, like the law, is going to talk about it, but it's important to remember that these cards do miss timing. So what that means is when this card is destroyed, it has a when here, not if. It's an important clause. And then it also mentions you can. So it's an optional effect, not mandatory. Now, when something has these two descriptors together, when and you can't, it means it misses the timing. So if the last thing to happen in a chain link was not the destruction of the hands, then it does not get the effect. So a lot of cards were better because you got to make cards miss timing. And that was a huge thing, and a huge thing this format was knowing how to make hands miss timing, because if you were playing control deck that didn't have a great way to deal with them, that was like your go-to. So a big one was like if they summoned, like if they had a bunch of monsters in the field, including hands, and there wasn't a safe torrential, you'd have to go like MST, you normal summon a monster, or they summon a monster, you MST, target your own torrential, or one of their backer if they had one, and then you chain torrential tribute. And then the way the chain would resolve, torrential would kill the other field, the mystical space type would destroy the other card, and then because the last thing in the chain to happen was MST and not torrential, nothing would resolve. There'd be no hands. And that was an extremely important of the game in this period. And it's a bit of a nuisance because it's not like a thing that's written on the cards anywhere. It's not intuitive. So for new players, it's kind of frustrating. But yeah. It mattered in prior formats as well for Elma's Hero, the Shining, and Light Pulsar Dragon. And it kind of, we saw a resurgence in it with these two hand monsters. And then later with Yang Zings. I think after those, it may have stopped being a thing because of how much of a goddamn problem it was for new players. And I mean, it's a silly thing to exist, but it was a huge part of the game's history.
Lastly, Soul Charge was a spell that could, with the cost of 1,000 life points of monster and your battle phase that turn, summon as many monsters as you'd like from the graveyard. Needless to say, a mass monster reborn was incredibly powerful, and on top of that, it was available at 3.
I don't know who designed this.
Every deck could have access to a mass board revival for
actually
life points.
baffling.
The stage were becoming more and more of an expendable resource. YCS Paris would be held the same weekend, though a major point needs to be that due to a logistical issue, Dragons of Legend would not be legal.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. I played YCS Paris. I popped YCS Paris, but I didn't remember. I don't think we had those cards. Yeah, though they were not here. They were not legal. For YCS Paris, I have another funny story. There was another. Obviously, I played Mermail. There was a card that I only heard of on the Friday that people were hyping up for Mermail decks, and I really wanted to play it. And the card is called Aqua Mirror Cycle. It's technically, I think it's an Ice Barrier card, technically. It's target a water you control and 2 waters in the graveyard. Shuffle the first target into the deck, and if you do, add the second target to your hand, right? Oh, Gishki, never mind, not Ice Barrier, Gishki, obviously, yeah, my bad. And it was a...
Is this good?
It was at the point, it gets a reprint in 2015, but at the time of the YCS, it was only in Galactic Overlord as a common card. And no one in the entire freaking venue of YCS Paris had that card. So I had to go and buy Galactic Overlord packs until I will pull the freaking common card to put into my Mermail deck for YCS Paris, right?
Is it even good though, that card? The card doesn't seem that good.
I bought... How many packs do you think I had to buy until I pulled the common? How many packs was it, you think? It's very funny.
Probably half a box, right?
Look, I think it was an entire box almost. I don't think it was an entire box complete. It was not 24, but it was like 20. And they spent a solid it was like $80, and I was sitting there. I pulled it in the first pack. They were mad.
You still paid like €4 for a common though.
Peter Gross would take the event on Mermail, being his 3rd YCS win after his 2 wins in 2012. The new card
there it is. He played it too.
Yeah, I did not like this crap. I did not like the card, but you can see that on cards popping up again.
This particular YCS. Peter Gross would take.
Yeah, there it is. No, Peter was insane back in the day. One of my greatest motivators as well. As to eventually, I always told him I want to catch up to you one day, and he kept winning more YCSs. But yeah.
Event on Mermail, being his 3rd YCS win.
It did catch up eventually, but it's because he stopped playing, I suppose.
After his 2 wins in 2012, the new cards of Dragons of Legend would have to wait just a bit longer to rock the meta, but they would have to share the stage with the next core set released 3 weeks later.
I've never looked at Sage Koya before. Up close. I did not realize he has like this braided beard with mustache. That's crazy.
Primal Origin. Release date, May 17th, 2014. Set type, core set. Major strategies, Artifact, Sylvan, Fusion. Impact, ending the Zexal era.
Why was there an Allure in a water deck? Because it was very easy to resolve it. Allure was one of the best cards in Mermail because it was centered around Gen X Undyne. And so you would always have that dead controller in your hand. It was really nice to have Allure. Allure was essentially Pot of Greed in Mermail.
It was like Sacred Sword in the Dragon deck. It was very good. I liked it a lot. That's why you like me. I always find the negative in someone's happiness. I'll go with it. Thank you.
Support waves to multiple other archetypes both in the meta and just outside of it, completely shaking things up prior to the WCQ circuit taking place over the next few months. The new archetype here was Artifact, a series of monsters that could be set in the spell trap zone, summoning themselves if popped on the opponent's
These cards were cool. Not Scythe though. Scythe was a nasty card. It wasn't good at the time yet, but yeah.
That's TCG exclusive too? God damn.
Turn. Durandal, a rank 5 that can detach a material to change an opponent's activated monster or normal spell trap effect to destroy a spell trap the opponent controls, and can detach one to multiple.
Durandal was a cool card. It's like a negate pseudo. I didn't like its interaction with the roll, but obviously that's
trap zone.
Not the end of the world.
Battle phase is
Besides Scythe, the artifact archetype is actually really, really cool and well designed, I think. Like, it was a really, it had the exact right balance, I feel like, between, they weren't super broken, but they were
Goddamn.
absolutely competitively viable, and they had a very unique
Got some
playstyle, which was
Mjolnir?
really cool.
Is that the other floodgate one? Yeah, I'm good at any of the
And
floodgates.
besides what cards like Lancia and Scythe would do eventually, like, these cards were super cool at the time.
well set.
Yeah, Lancia as well, I guess. Sanctum and Ignition are sick. Moral Attack is sick. Beagle Attack is cool. Even Caduceus is cool to draw cards. Durendal's cool.
Sylvan would receive a solid second wave of support here in Cherub Sprout, able to excavate up to 2 on
That was a TCD exclusive, I'm pretty sure, the Cherub Sprout. Or was it Princess Sprite? There was a Princess Sprite. There was some other princess card. And I remember thinking Princess Sprout. I remember thinking maybe this is enough to make the deck playable, and I was testing around with it for the YCS in Philly, but I didn't have the confidence to play it, so I just played a trap deck like everyone else.
Up to 3 cards, send any plants to grave, and bounce that many cards on field to hand. And Charity, a spell that lets you draw 3 and
Charity's
stack 2,
crazy.
including a Sylvan from hand on top of the deck.
Charity is a crazy card for the deck, because you also get to decide what's on top of your deck. Like, that card's insane.
Stacking every card in hand if you don't have a Sylvan. This way would iron out a ton of the issues that Sylvan had from its initial debut.
My favorite combo is Sylvan Charity plus Mystical Ref Panel. For those who don't know, let's show you Mystical Ref Panel real quick. Mystical Ref Panel is a really funnel card. A really funny card. Mystical Ref Panel. So this card says, activate only when a spell card that targets a player is activated. I know what you're saying. It doesn't target a player, but for some reason it works. I guess it works with trading or whatever. And the effect of the spell card is applied to the other player instead. So, this saw some niche play in Dragon format, because when Trade-In or Sacred Sword having 7 stars is played, you essentially negate the effect and take it to draw 2. However, if you played Sylvan Charity, you could use this and then give it to your opponent. And why that's important is Sylvan Charity reads kind of like Allure Darkness. Draw 3, then if you have a Sylvan card in your hand, reveal 2 cards in your hand, including at least 1 Sylvan. Place them on top of your deck in any order. Otherwise, you reveal your hand to your opponents and place it on top of your deck in any order. So you can Sylvan Charity and then Ref Panel, and your opponent has to draw 3 and then resolve the effect. And if they're not playing Sylvans, they're going to have no Sylvans in their hand, and their entire hand will be placed back in their deck. So it's a full hand rip. Really funny gimmick combo that obviously is not good. However, it exists.
With Sage and Princess specifically filling a major void in the excavation access, and Charity reading all
What would Sylvans need to become the most viable? What, in the current metagame, it would need an entire overhaul of its deck. Back then, a little more consistency, I think. A little bit more ways to start playing.
almost like a custom card for the archetype. But whether or not it would perform would have to be seen in the YCS and WCQ circuit. Bujin would receive a couple of new cards here in Harume, a Beast Warrior Bujin that must be special summoned by banishing a Bujin from grave. Except
It's like
It was
Aqua Spirit.
viable. Let's say it like that. Let's not argue too much about it. I didn't personally like it that much, but it was definitely a meta deck. Whether it was the best deck or tier 1 or tier 2, let's not argue about it. I think it wasn't that great, but people did play it and people did have success with it, so it's alright.
both players' hand on destruction. Sinew, a TCG exclusive that can banish itself from grave.
I don't know what the card even does.
Monster, having battle damage from that battle. And Amaterasu, a 3-material rank 4.
Amaterasu. That is my favorite Bujin. Kagasuchi is cool. Tsukiyomi's okay. This one is my goat. I played him so much in my my grass Fairy Tale Snow Zodiac deck. Amaterasu is broken. The amount of max C's that Amaterasu's given to my hand, he's a good boy. It's a snow card, exactly.
Examples where this card was never really good in Bujin because it required 3 monsters, and Bujin really never had that. At least very, very rarely. But this was really cool in like other combo-y decks a couple years down the line. Like I played this in like rank 4 Minerva Turbo, and it was really cool.
Opponent's turn. The support would be solid for Bujin all around, giving the deck an in-archetype honest of sorts, as well as more rank 4 swarming options, seeing a boost in the deck's play rate from the support. Moving into the standalones, Traptrix would receive Dionea, with a standard Traptrix immunity.
Right, so this was White Hat saw play, there was this, and then Traptrix Nightmare Trapple already came out in Judgment of the Light, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shuffle effect and contribute herself to summon a Madolche from deck, shuffling it back into the deck at the end phase of your next turn, which was an incredible starter for Madolche by giving the deck immediate access to Hootcake, who already had a monster engraved to banish thanks to Angela.
Wait, is this still draft? I don't remember. It was, right?
The previously released Vanity Steam, locking monster effects while on the field, being a solid counter strategy to various decks in many different metagames. Number 103 Ragnazero was a new rank 4 option, able to detach to pop a monster who has a different attack than its original, drawing a card if you do, being a solid tech choice for countering out some decks. Number 80 Rhapsody and Berserk was another rank 4 option, able to detach to demand a card in the opponent's grave and can equip itself onto another.
Yeah, Rhapsody and Rangers are both really cool. They're both rares though, so they weren't even like
really good memory
standouts, but they're good cards.
Sets, right? Like you say like Phantom Darkness, I can tell you what's in that. If you say Light of Destruction, I know what's in there, all that kind of stuff. These sets, even though I played Yu-Gi-Oh super actively at the time, I don't know exactly where all these cards are from somehow. I don't know why this is. Maybe my memory was a lot better when I
don't share that sentiment. I can usually tell pretty accurately where the cards are from.
All these cards came out. I don't know what
Ragnazero was super cool with tanky decks. It was. You had Overworked as well, the trap that blows up all the monsters with extra attack points.
Maybe I was more hyped for new sets as a kid. I don't know. It's not dementia. I can tell you that, chat. It's not that.
Yeah, his chat's just making fun of him.
I mean, I guess, but even then, it was more like I mean, nowadays I do that too, but I still know mostly where the cards are from. I mean, I have a lot more like exposure to it because we always like review stuff on stream and like we like all that kind of stuff. So I guess nowadays it makes sense that I know. But yeah.
Effect primarily. Karen Gorgon was yet another new rank 4 option. Able to detach one to change any card singular target to
This one is one I thought that was way better than it actually was, but this card's cool still.
Exceeds universe is a trap that sends 2 exceeds to grave to summon a non-number exceed with a rank that is equal to the combined ranks of the sent exceeds or 1 less. Attaching itself as material to that.
I love this card. This card is sick. This card is super cool. I have played this card many times back in the day. Evo Singularity, yeah, this card is a pain in the ass to find for the Twitch built my my regional deck challenge. Finding this random common with no reprints from Primal Origin was such an annoying task. Card is pretty good though, all things considered. I think Evo had like a couple like small regional tops whatever because of that card. I think maybe it's a big difference in the TCG. We had a lot of Geargia players here. I know one of the better groups of players in North America who really liked Gears. Like the same way they tried to convince me to keep playing Gears. I fumbled the bag at Chicago with Geargia. I didn't want to go back and play it. I felt like I just wasn't good enough for the deck and I didn't want to learn it. So I didn't like jump ship to go join them with the Gear decks, but Gear was cool. I saw a lot of play in North America, and I'm noticing from these charts, and I didn't really notice it before, I guess, that it wasn't seen as much play in Europe.
The beginning of what people refer to as hat format, right? And the reason why people look back at it very fondly is because of exactly what you're seeing on the screen right now. It's a super diverse.
It's a clusterfuck of bullshit, is what he's trying to say. However, these are like the same deck. They're just like. Some decks like leaned a little more into one engine and then had like more non-engine in their deck instead of more monsters. Some decks played all three. This was like fine. This was garbage. This was the best deck in secret. And then this Injector. It's funny how much Mermail fell off, but I really felt like Mermail struggled here. Mermail was not as good into the back row anymore without your ability to generate free marksmans. I know Mermail did see some play and it like. People still liked it. I did not think Mermail was that good anymore, unfortunately.
Format, and that's why people liked it at the time as well. I personally
also I'll say this all the time. This channel, diversity versus tier 0, while it may be a contributor to the quality of a format, it is by no means a sole indicator on how healthy or good a format is. And this format's not terrible, but for one, it's unsolved. So I think if you go back and fix it, this should not look like this way. This was. For one, the product of the draft. So people didn't have the same data to build an actual best deck. They also didn't have to build for top to win. They built to top, which is different. Europe wasn't like that, but Europe also I don't think had any events in this period. They don't have the WCQ. So they didn't really have, like, the data they drew from was from events that weren't real, right? Like, real in a sense, because you never played out Top Cut here. It was... And then also, like, it's just the worst methods of deck building that they had back then. People were, like... I don't want to dismiss... the ideas of older players, but people were less refined and the formats were less refined and defined back then in general. People were less, good at approaching it. So I think if you go back and change the format, it wouldn't actually be as diverse. There would be a more clear best deck. I think Infinity would take that title pretty handily. But also, yeah, even then, diversity or not, it's not the only indicator of what defines a healthy format.
Never liked this format, not because it's super diverse actually. I don't really care.
Patrick Hoban literally had articles where he would make decks that go X2. I don't remember that, to be honest, but I could believe it, right? Like, you didn't have to go undefeated. You didn't have to win Top Cut. You can rely more on surprise factor in a Swiss only tournament, right? Because when people know what you're playing in Top Cut, it's too late. You're not playing that deck anymore. I think you definitely could take different deck building approaches. There are many times I make a decision when I'm building decks now because I don't think it'll win the tournament. I think I can probably get the Top Cut with a strategy, but I need to think I can win. You didn't have to do that in these type of tournaments. And I think there definitely is some of that showing with how the deck with how like the breakdown looks like, whatever the hell you want to call this.
I didn't care about that at the time. It was just my problem with this format is that a lot of these decks here have super rock, paper, scissor matchups against each other, right? Like, for example, the hat deck cannot really beat Geargia.
Geargia is rough. I remember we had to play shit like Acid Trap Hole that tits face down monsters to like cope, and like it was still rough. I mean, it wasn't unwinnable, but like it was not good. It was not a good matchup. Gear could not beat any combo deck really. Gear was just too slow. But the thing is, like, I think How is honestly just not that good of a deck in retrospect. It was so much. It really wasn't that well positioned versus a good combo player, and versus a good Geargia player, you're also struggling. I don't think it was like truly rock paper scissors, but they were definitely like edges, like to like a decent degree.
It was not that good of a deck. It was super like easy to pilot. Just set a bunch of traps, open Geargia armor and Geargia gear. If not, then you're in trouble. It was I didn't like Geargia. It was boring. Hat was kind of boring. Super slow matchup as well, right? Your opponent sets a Geargia armor.
Yeah.
Hat can't deal with it.
It's funny hearing him say this as the player who's known for like paleo and these control decks, but like I think I liked them more than he did, which is funny. I don't love these decks, but like
I don't know. So
yeah.
Bujin is super resident sleeper. Evil Swarm is resident sleeper. So like for the most part, it's not that there is a lot of different decks. It's just that out of all these different decks, I didn't really like anything. There was no deck in here where I really felt like it was good. And Mermail didn't feel that great to me at the time because, you know, it was just like, I don't know. Like,
I think dealing with the hands
so
was kind of annoying for Mermails.
We brought it back out and it won Euros, but like, it's at the time, German Nationals is around this time, I think. And I played Hat, and it was just, I didn't enjoy myself that much.
A very clear change was present from the top 32. The engines present in the past couple of packs would pop up in various strategies throughout the top 32, but most notably would be mixed with each other to form their own standalone decks, like Trap Tricks Hands, Artifact Trap Tricks, and what would become the face of the format in retrospect, Hat, short for Hand Artifact Trap Tricks, which would mix the titular engines together to form a type.
What a terrible deck list.
It's just like, this deck plays like a GOAT format deck.
It does. I think that's why people like it, and they liked it back then too. And I don't even mean like what a terrible deck list because a lot of them looked like this. Mine looked like this back then. I don't know, one-ofs and random crap and oh. This was not it. This was not it, and I can't believe we ever thought it was it.
Control package, with the hands providing their monster and spell trap pops in combination with board swarming, the artifacts providing disruption and
these were neg as all hell, especially the trap cards. I can't believe we played Beagle Tax. Eventually we cut them, but I already played one of.
And that's okay. That's all right. I don't. It's definitely a format where
literally siding knock. You had to, dude. Geargia armor was rough. You should play mind control though. Mind control is really important for beating Geargia as well because you can take the armor and then overlay with it, and that was pretty good. And then also like in the mirror, taking a hand was fine. I like mind control a lot.
It just wasn't for me personally. It's completely fine if you enjoyed it. Nothing wrong with that.
So the deck that I played for the WCQ was again it was from the same group of people who told me to play Gears earlier. They told me to play Cat, the Curry Bandit Artifact Trap Tricks decks. No hands because everyone was building to beat hands, so we didn't play hands. Everyone was playing mistiming cards. I think that was fine. And then Curry Bandit was cool because like, and you played Soul Charge the deck. You'd set up Soul Charge plays. So you'd try to play it a little more mid-range. You wouldn't play it like as control heavy. That was cool. That was better, but it still wasn't great. That deck list was just more like streamlined as well. It just felt better. Curry Bandit was sick though.
I personally just didn't like. You're saying Goat is boring? I think Goat gets stale after a while. Yeah.
I agree. I'm not a huge Goat fan. I don't hate Goat, but I don't love it.
And you go back to it for a couple games. I don't think Goat format is as good as people made it out to be for a long time. Like people celebrated Goat like crazy for a while, and I felt like it got stale. I was also very hyped on Goat for a while, and then
my pup just came downstairs. What's up, Chloe? Come here. Come. Nope, she does not want to listen to me. You can see her walking around in the background. She is, I don't know, she's looking for food. There's nothing here for her to eat.
I just realized, hey, a lot of games are actually the same. They just take very long. Yeah.
Spell trap removal and rank 4 access. This deck would become the face of this period of Yu-Gi-Oh's history, known as Hat format, which would be considered one of the few times in post-5Ds Yu-Gi-Oh! Where a deck that is very much a control strategy would be the dominant force on the map.
Nope, she has decided to leave.
Following the top 16 draft, using a Dolce to reach top 16, sporting not only the new Angeli line, but also
I played hands. I know you played hands. This deck looks pretty bad, actually.
Players using the results from the YCS to prepare for the upcoming WCQ circuit, this structure deck would be the last opportunity to provide any kind of shakeup to the already shattered apart metagame.
Oh, the Light Sworn structure, that's cool.
Realm of Light. Release date, June 27th, 2014. Set type, structure deck. Major strategies, Light Sworn. Impact, a revitalization to Millers. Realm of Light would be the second of 3 structure decks
pretty cool
providing new support to previously meta archetypes, this time being Light Sworn, who received 3 new...
Oh, man. Yeah, I was super stoked for this, but then I didn't want to play against it, and this playing against this was actually rough. I lost way too many times just getting FTK'd by this. Yeah, God. My opponent at the WCQ this year was playing Lightsworn. But this year I mean like in 2014, like round 1. And I remember sitting there and he summons a Gareth and opens up triple recharge and he decked himself out on turn 1. He ends up getting to a point where in his turn he's like 6 cards in deck and he's like, well, I guess if I mill 3 with Lumina, mill 2 with Gareth, he doesn't have a choice, and he mills a Lightsworn and he has to draw a card and he decks out, and then that's what happened. And I was like, wow. He just, didn't do that to himself. I lost because he had like all the Dragon Rulers engraved with Eclipse Wyverns and Judgment Dragons. Like I'm here, I am playing a trap deck, so I'm just dead. And then he just killed himself, and I'm like, oh, neat. I guess I'll take the win. It was like playing Master Duel.
monsters to bolster their ranks, being Raiden, a tuner that's able to mill 2 to boost himself by 200 for each Lightsworn milled this way, milling 2 more in the end phase. Minerva,
Raiden's a
a
cool
tuner that's
card.
Light Dragon on normal whose level is less than or equal to your Lightsworn name.
That card is
mills 2 in the
bait.
end phase, and mills 1 when sent from hand or deck to grave.
My dad likes this card. He kept trying to make this card work. I don't know why. It is not good.
Then Light Lock Sinker that can pay 1,000 to ban.
He just wants to add JD.
Any number of Lightsworns in grave on destruction, gaining 300 life points for each, and mills 3 in the end phase. These 3 would each see their own usage both within Lightsworn strategies and in general, with Raiden specifically seeing the most usage due to being a miller that is also a
I mean,
tuner for
Raiden is
super
just
cool access.
just like a solid card, unironically. Like, even in modern Yu-Gi-Oh, there's like a chance that you could play Raiden at some point again. Like, being a warrior, a tuner, a target for Charge of the Light Brigade. Like, if you ever have a deck that has insane.
I think a big thing is the fact that it's a target for charge, right? Like 3 charge plus a Raiden or even 2 Raidens, like level 4 tuner that keeps milling cards is good. If Snow was legal, Chaos Silver was legal, these are real options, right? And I've played around them in Master, they're not terrible. Is there a world we get even more Lightsworn stuff? Because playability, because of the new Lightsworn cards in LEDE? It's actually possible. I don't know. I don't hate it.
Value with cards in the graveyard. Being able to just like charge, mill 3, search Raiden, summon it, mill 2 more. It's just mill 5. You know.
You saw it in Goaty Runic? That's weird. I would not. It's not a deck I would think of to play Charge and Raiden in.
Jane, Lila, Gareth, Wolf, Aaron, Lumina, Arcus, Ryko, Honest,
Yeah, reprints all the lights ones.
Solar Recharge, Charge, Foolish, and Breakthrough Skill. The WCQ circuit for the year would begin with the European WCQ on
Europe was first.
For the most part, we'd see similar results to Philadelphia, with Geargia remaining the top deck and half.
I think Mermail won this because I remember everyone started replaying Mermail for the WCQ, but I thought it sucked. Or it did really well. Mermail did really well. Yeah, Mermail's rep here was solid, for sure.
There were a couple of other decks, however, in the top cut worth talking about. Sylvan would see its first set of premier event tops, seeing 3 total, with Sage Toya ironing out many of the archetypes boss monster issues, and Sylvan Charge being one of the best.
Wasn't it played at ARG's first? I'm trying to remember.
Fire Blossom and Rose Archer, as well as the mass excavation and dump tool that
Yes, he doesn't talk about ARG's.
The other breakout success here would be Lightsworn Ruler, tying
Because I don't remember that being a. I don't remember that being a European deck. Remember I was doing the Engineer combo with Orca? Oh, that was sick. I love that. This deck is also sick. My dad played this. This was sick. I love Rainbow Karibo. That card is cool. Curry Bandit's nice. Yeah, here's Needlebuck Nest. This is it exactly. I remember this deck list. This is also one of my dad's favorite cards. He loves Lyria de Bolos and Daedalus.
Needlebuck Nest was in here.
Eugen Height would take the event on Mermail, showing the deck can still.
What was that pronunciation?
This guy wanted to play Frog Monarch until the Friday of this tournament. Until I told him, dude, you cannot play Frog Monarch at this tournament. Please take my Mermail list and play it. Please play it. Don't play freaking.
That's crazy. I did not know that. Frog Monarch is psychopathic, by the way.
Perform in the metagame despite the heavily shifting
Freaking Frog Monarchs.
The South American WCQ would be the same weekend, and Hat would see a far more pronounced performance here, taking a fourth of the representation at 8 slots from the top 32. Roger Moran would take the event on Machina Gadget, being a surprising run for the deck to take, notably playing single combos allowed with Radox, providing Grave Revival and Rake 7.
I did not know that. That's interesting. Can't believe Gadget's won an event.
With 17 decks across the 32 running the hand package in some shape or form, showing the engine's dominance. The Oceania WCQ would be the next weekend, but unfortunately due to poor coverage, we only know the top 4 here. Geargia would clear into 3 of the 4.
Oh, Bowden got. This is where Bowden gets mind controlled twice in top 4 and gets top 4, and he can still complains about it to this day.
4 spots, with Donald Thompson defeating all of them to take the event with Fire Fist Artifact Hand, trading out the Trap extension of most hat builds for a fire.
Yeah, this is basically just hat, but we play another normal summon, which is Bear. Can Bear pop face down monsters?
Yeah, it can, right?
Or can Bear? Yes, that's pretty good against Geargia then. That's pretty good. I'm surprised not more people were doing that then. That seems like a pretty good answer to Geargia. We have that. Dude, don't call it fat. Fire Fist. I guess it's Fire Fist Artifact Trap Tricks. I guess it is fat. Unfortunate.
This package. The Central America WCQ would be the same weekend, and Dolce would have a surprising showing here, taking 5 top spots and landing in 2nd for representation.
Oh, interesting.
The hat cores, which
it evolves.
The top cut seamlessly here, with hands appearing in 9 lists, trap tricks in 7, and artifacts in 5.
I think what's not being talked about enough is the Mythic Dragon Ruler deck with like people were playing Whitestone and Card of Consonance and Tradens, and then Soul Charge. That deck was really popular in the Americas region. I guess because of all the ARGs, they were pretty popular, but I haven't seen them being talked about at all in this video, and they felt like that deck was pretty popular. It's a mid played it and went to Worlds with it, right? Or he lost, then he did qualify, right? But it wasn't like a surprise deck because people knew about that deck.
Jose Lagunas would take the event on Mermail, being another surprising victory.
Oh, Jose Lagunas won this one? Nice.
Right.
Looking back, honestly, looking back at this particular format, the success of Mermail is not surprising at all. As well as the upcoming support of Infernity as well. It's just a literal matter of Infernity and Mermail are the 2 best decks to use Soul Charge in. Nah,
Dragon's better than Mermail, I think. I think Dragon's better than Mermail. I think also that wasn't exportive. I think the backer decks are not actually it. The Soul Charge decks are the better decks. I don't love Mermail still. I think it is still worse than the others, but Dragon is better.
is you would have something that was decently
Oh, to mid
explosive,
miss and then
but
qualified
they
the
would
year
win the
after,
deck-
right?
They would win the game every single time they had Soul Charge, and that card was at 3.
Or he never
we were playing
qualified.
between 2 and 3 copies because sometimes it wasn't great in the opener. But like,
Oh, he
whenever
just
you
never
were running that
qualified,
card in
period,
those
right?
decks, you would
That's
win the
rough.
game, right? Sylvan too. Nah, Sylvan just sucked ass in comparison to those two. Like, unironically, Sylvan is not great. And then,
I think there's a bit of bias there,
God,
but
everyone
I
was
don't
basically
think Sylvan's
control
great either.
doing
I
this
don't
format.
think it's
Everyone was
Gap Head
like,
either.
It's the shit, Geargia is the shit, set so many trap cards and so on and so forth. It wasn't real. It wasn't real. Everyone was control pilled. It was not that. It was not that. You just played a little bit of setup game with Mermail or Infernity, you Soul Charge on them, you win the game every time.
And unfortunately, most of the coverage of this particular event has been lost to time.
Trap Stun just murdered you as well. Like,
So we do know
Yeah.
some goings on through Attendee Testament. Though the deck was solid, most pro players in the North American circuit were actively lying about the strength of Sylvan as a combo deck in the meta, saving their list for this specific event, and it would perform well.
It was 2 layers of lying at the time. So I think this was something where a lot of pro players were hiding the Sylvan goo, right? Because they wanted to bring it out at the NAWCQ, right? And then they lied a second time because then they said it was good. And I firmly believe that the only reason that this deck was good is because so
this is
many
the Hoban
American
squad
pro
shit,
players
yeah.
were pilled on it and they played it. Had they played other decks, they probably would have done better. And it only had representation in Top Cut because so many pro players played it. Like, it wasn't actually that good.
One of the most represented decks that we know of from this particular event, with some innovations to the strategy, including
Like,
blasters
this deck, unironically, if this doesn't open Curry Bandit or Lone Fire Blossom, have fun playing the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Because you won't.
It was
You're
a bit
not taking
inconsistent.
one.
That's my
You're
biggest
one
problem with
play.
the deck, yeah.
rank 7 enabler.
No, I don't think it's as bad as Josh says it is, guys, but I also, it is a bit inconsistent. It is a bit rough. Like, Kuma Shrumo is pretty good versus the what's it called? Versus the slow decks, but versus combo decks, it's gonna be a bit rough. If you see Lone Fire, your deck is broken. Fertilizer and Soul Charger nuts. But Sylvania Ditch like Hermitry was like, oh, barely playable. It was. I think tier 2, it's not terrible, it's not great either.
Due to the ruling that its destruction effect will not trigger if a monster that it revives is used as Exceed material, and Spore being used not only as a tuner, but as Exceed material for rank 8 by banishing a Sage Koya for its summon. Corey McDuffie would take the event on hat, being the first premier event win for the rapidly rising.
And guess what? None of them, I don't think anyone qualified for Worlds with Sylvan. None of them.
No, they didn't.
Strategy, notably playing Pot of Economy thanks to its various types the deck utilized. The day after the NAWCQ, the ban list would be updated,
Yeah,
notably being the first time a non-emergent.
Hey, and we're finally reaching the point where now, when you go first, you don't draw for turn.
Ban list would take effect on a date that wasn't the first of the month, being July 14th, though clearly the list was delayed as to not interfere with the WCQ events already scheduled. Newly limited were Geargia Gear, the primary combo piece of the Geargia strategy, and Goyo Guardian, being released from his ban status. Newly semi-limited were Formula Synchron, Magician of Faith, and Rhoda, all coming back from 1. Lastly, newly unlimited were Dimensional Prison and Mirror Force, sparking a bit of debate around these two specifically due to their natures as powerful battle traps, especially Mirror Force. But in retrospect, that call was correct, as their time was coming to an end. We were standing on the precipice of a new era, and though it wouldn't officially start for another month,
Especially with how powerful Duelist Alliance was.
Supply Squad.
Supply Squad is one of the biggest bait cards of all time.
July 11th, 2014. Set type, starter deck. Major strategies, summoners, magicians, empowered warriors. Impact. What the hell is that? Space Time Showdown would be the year's starter deck. As such would also be our first look at the new mechanic for the Arc 5 era, Pendulums. These monsters.
I loved the decks that came out of this time, but Pendulum, holy shit, it sucks. Wish this never existed.
Spell hybrids can either be summoned as normal or set in one of the newly coined Pendulum scales, a new zone placed on each side of the board, with a unique effect for where it was placed. When destroyed, Pendulums go to the extra deck face up rather than the graveyard, and most importantly, one per turn.
Pendulum, I don't even remember how we received Pendulum. It was so weird at the time. I still remember very vividly to this point in time. I remember friggin' thinking that you needed to put the low scale on the left and the high scale on the right, otherwise you wouldn't be able to Pendulum summon, because that made sense in my head. I was like, the low scale has to go on the left, the high scale has to go on the right, otherwise it doesn't make sense.
That'd be pretty
Because
funny.
Why else would they put it on the left and the right side of the card? Right? Like, why is it on both sides? Because I thought that the blue one is the one that it has on the left and the red one is the one it has on the right. And so to this day, if you put your high scale to the left and your low scale to the right, in my eyes, you're a criminal.
That is a very weird,
That's all. That's all.
very weird habit
It should be
that I do not, never
That
experienced.
would mean that while they're in scale, you can Pendulum summon out any monsters between the levels of 2 and 7, and upon finding this out, the community lost their collective minds. The idea of being able to summon out massive bosses for effectively 3 signaled the end of Yu-Gi-Oh! As many called it. However, this was completely overblown. There was experimentation initially with cards like Jinzo and Miss Valley Apex Avian being cheated out, but the reality of the situation was that because of the lack of Pendulum monsters, the mechanic was nowhere near as busted as people would think initially. Aside from these two, the only new release here worth noting was Supply Squad, a continuous spell that lets you draw a card once per turn when a monster.
People were so hyped on Supply Squad. But the truth about Pendulum is that, like, unlike Xyz or Synchros or now Lynx, it's another fundamentally flawed mechanic. Because it requires you, like, it's funny because all of the mechanics that require you to put cards into your main deck historically have all been flawed. Whether it's Ritual, Fusion, or Pendulum, all of these mechanics are super flawed because you have to basically, the only times that these mechanics are actually good is when they make cards that cheat the system, basically. When they make fusion spells that generate more card advantage than they should, or when you confuse from other, like when you confuse from the deck or banish from the graveyard or whatever, like, You never fuse the way you're supposed to fuse. You never ritual the way you're supposed to ritual. You're never, and you also never, if you really think about it, you never really pendulum summon the way you were supposed to pendulum summon. You would never just, I mean, sometimes you would, but like you wouldn't actually go and place one card on the left and place one card on the right.
And then just pen
pendulum
3. Yeah, because you need
would
pluses. They're just too
basically
neg.
Make your entire deck revolve around pendulum cards, and then you would still need cards that would cheat the system by being 1-card scales, for example, like freaking monkey board or whatever, right? Klee did that. What the hell are you talking about? First of all, your name is called, your name's Runic Circular, and Klee did not freaking do that. The
His name is Runic Circular. You guys can't see Josh's shower now, but that's funny. Josh is getting tilted at that. I mean, I don't know, he's probably just acting it up for chat. That's funny.
You think Klee is a
what the fuck? Runic Circular's in my chat too. That's crazy. That's crazy timing. What's up, Runic Circular?
Metalfoes didn't do that either. Metalfoes cheated the system by creating free cards in the extra deck. You wouldn't scale 2 Metalfoes and then pendulum summon. You don't do that. You go scale, pop your scale.
I thought that Jesse was cooked.
I mean, there's a bit of truth to that, but also like that's just how every Yu-Gi-Oh deck is played. You always play a deck that generates advantage. Yes, if your deck scales 2 without generating any advantage, your deck sucks. But like, I don't think that's that crazy.
There's always
Wait, who the hell is in my chat name? Sunseed Josh is Schmidt Schuler. What? I have all the Josh trolls in my chat now all of a sudden.
The way they want you to do it, they all suck. Because guess what? Having 5 cards in your hand, if 2 of them are dedicated scales to sit in your scale and not do anything else, you play with 3 cards in your hand, which is terrible, even if you get a special summon from it. It's just not great. It was never a good mechanic. It was only good because they made obscenely broken cards for it.
Lastly, with the release of this starter deck, there were a couple of adjustments to the master rules alongside the pendulum changes. The first of these was there could now be an active field spell on each side of the field, meaning that you and your opponent no longer had to fight for field spell priority. Though up until this point, that
I mean, for pendulum, they specifically had to even change the rules to even make it viable.
Was that the player going first no longer drew for the start of their first turn. This was an incredibly important change, as now there was a real sacrifice for choosing to go first over going second. And though most players would still choose to set up first over the extra card moving forward,
yeah, going first was still just way too good. This is a good change though.
I think the new field spell ruling at the time, I never really minded it. And I don't think it's a terrible decision that they changed it. I still think I think it'd be kind of better if they didn't do that. You know,
I agree. I actually think it was cool. One field spell was cool. I liked it.
Counter field spells, and I also think like from a logical standpoint, I don't know. It doesn't really make sense, does it? Like if you really think about it, you know, like field spells apply to the entire field. Like let me just, you know, like I don't know. Runic would be in shambles. It would be a lot of modern card design wouldn't work because they designed them with that in mind. But
yeah,
it would be it'd make more sense. I don't think I like that they changed that.
Pose Force was killed that day. It was. That was a very like niche tech card that saw a lot of play for a while inside decks.
For that reason, in addition to reprints of Levier the Sea Dragon, Digesto Emerald, Gakaka Cowboy, Diamond Direwolf, and Ghosttrick Alucard. The World Championship.
This set is fun to draft, but obviously it's not good.
This would be one of the most interesting years in terms of coordination for Worlds, as it would be the first time.
Let's go, Canada won Worlds! Woo! Because I can't do it myself, because I suck. That's alright, we're winning this year, right? We win this year.
Really interesting one because I helped Eugen prepare for this a little bit, and I think it was the first tournament actually that he played in or that we ever had that had 5-card opening hands and not drawing on your first turn. I'm pretty sure that is what changed, right? Why am I mixing that up right now? That was that master rule, right?
Yeah, it was that one. Yep.
That is what they changed. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I thought yeah. So that was like a massively weird thing to prepare for a tournament where you basically had no idea what people would make of it, essentially, right? The only thing that we did, I think the mistake that we made during that preparation is we didn't have Infernity on our radars. We tried all of the decks, but we didn't try Infernity enough, or maybe not even at all. So yeah, that was an oversight.
However, since the TCG-OCG split, Worlds would need to have a banlist that effectively combined the harshest hits from both regions, leaving some decks in a much weaker or stronger state than initially expected, especially with the removal of exclusives from both pools. Because of this, and despite having multiple hits on the banlist, Infernity would move to be the most successful deck at the event.
Infernity should have just been the best deck, period, because the Hobby got top 6 at the NASBQ also with this deck.
This would be the final event of the Zexal era, fittingly enough, and as we moved into the next era of the game, the core set kickoff would do more than just reset the previous meta, it was going to obliterate it into the stratosphere.
I love this set. I'm so sad. I was so young. I couldn't afford to buy any of these decks on release, so I had to play Infernity at the first event. It's because like it was good, it was cheap, and I had it already. I wish I got to play BA or Shadal at Toronto this year.
Impact, the beginning of modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Duelist Alliance is considered by most in the community to be the exact moment when the older version of Yu-Gi-Oh! Officially pivoted to the modern era, being one of the strongest set releases of all time. But why is that? We've had era kickoffs that heavily impacted the meta before, like in the case of Duelist Genesis, and this one wasn't even that strong of a start for the pendulum mechanic at all. So why is this the pivot point? Well, it's not about the mechanics here, it's about card and deck design. Up until this point, most formats have a significant amount of back and forth, specifically in the viability of trap cards, especially summon responders and battle traps. And that was because at the time, decks operated at a speed that was forgiving enough.
But this isn't the last time you see real trap decks. There are real trap decks after this, right? BA was a trap deck from this time. The Teller played traps. So I mean, yeah, and then later you'd have the
Duelist Alliance, it wouldn't change immediately.
what's it called? The Paleo deck. I don't know why I was blanking on that. And yeah, around this time is also when I played this Infernity combo deck, the Dank MLG series. I've shown it on the channel though before. I don't want to show it again really, but I'll show you guys what this is. No one realizes this is me. All right, now people maybe do because I've been talking about it, but literally just me playing Infernity versus Shadal, and this gave me the full sense of security that I should be playing this deck at Toronto this year. And I put the effort into try afford a new deck, get the money. And it's actually me in this meme video back in the day, which has 1 million views. I wonder if people realize it's me, if anyone comments. Yeah. People just watching me, they realize. But yeah, this was funny. And there's all this music, but it's loud and it's very aggressive, so I don't want to put it on screen right now.
Immediately, but it would be felt over the coming months as the game slowly transitioned away from back row heavy games and focused a lot more heavily on the strategies and archetypes' own inner strengths to build boards with, and fast. This set would introduce a new monster type in Worms and 5 new archetypes into the meta.
Worms! Oh, Yang Zing was also playable.
With each being based on one of the previous summoning mechanics aimed at taking that mechanic higher than before. The first of these was the Teller Knight, the Exceed archetype of the bunch, aimed at using their light warriors to quickly swarm the board.
The bait deck. This deck was shit.
This game sucked.
This first wave
This
included
deck
Zet, who searched the Teller Knight on summon except itself.
Good. At least he agrees. This deck was terrible. This was the easy deck that required like no skill to play, and it just wasn't even that good. It got better with Trevor, but still and then it got better with like Diamond, but again, just like it's just not good.
Air, able to revive the Teller Knight on summon. Vega,
Never
summoned
good.
the Teller Knight from hand on summon. Anukalai, who dumped the Teller Knight from
Yang Zing needed Zhao too. Yeah, it wasn't good yet, but it was like it wasn't even like good. It was always just like a rogue deck, but it wasn't terrible.
Skybridge, which swaps the Teller Knight on field for one in deck with a different name, and Stellar Nova Alpha, a counter trapper spell.
That card was good. That was the only good card in the deck.
Card on resolution. This deck would be heavily reliant on its back row line, similar to the decks of the Hat era, and as such, though it did see a fair amount of success in the coming months, the moment more options were available in the pool, so Teller Knight would fall out of favor just as quickly as it came in. The second archetype was Shadal, focused on fusions, which not only had all of their monsters include effects when sent to grave, but also
Shadal was cool, but the best one is definitely BA.
This included Falco, who revives the Shadal face down on flip and summons.
What team are you? Are you Team Teller, Team Doll, or Team BA?
Squamata, who destroys a monster on flip or dumps a Shadal from deck if sent by effect. Dragon, who bounces a card on flip or pops a spell trap if sent by effect. Beast.
Now the Laval Chain, Turbos, and Spell Cancellor, then Call the Haunted it back was insane. I liked playing Brilliant Fusion because you Brilliant Fusion for Christia, and it's the same thing. With Oasis of the Dragon Souls, which came out later. But also Teller is still shit.
Favorite Shadal card, by the way. Sinister Shadow Games was so dope.
Core, able to summon itself as an effect
Shadow Games is sick.
Recurring a Shadal spell trap to hand when sent to grave. And lastly, and most important,
You were Team Dole, and then you made me switch to BA, and you hated it, but it was better. As long as you understand, BA was the best deck.
Shadal Fusion specifically would be the catalyst for an absolute overhaul to the fusion.
It should have been BA, but you were a kid who played Tellers. I'm sorry for your loss.
Though Shadal was recognizably powerful out the gate thanks to this incredible first wave of support, aside from the usage of core,
Shadal Fusion was such a crazy card.
causing the deck to be mixed with other popular light attribute engines to offset this, most commonly being the artifacts and light swarms. The third archetype was Yang Zing, the synchro archetype of the group, being the introduction of the new worm type.
The deck is really cool too, but yeah, it wasn't fantastic.
All this timing, which was kind of a oversight, I feel like.
And gave their synchro monster an additional effect, with Suwani boosting the synchro by 500, Bian preventing battle destruction, Vixie providing trap immunity, and Bulao.
Dude, I hated when they made the stupid indestructible by battle Herald the Arclight. I hated that. I hated that. I hated that. As a BA player, it was so annoying.
Of the bunch could revive itself when a Yang Zing was destroyed. Their synchro target, Baxia, was a level 8 Wormlock synchro that spun away cards on summon up to the different attributes used to make him, and could pop a card you control to revive a level.
Yeah, the combos with level leader.
Yang Zing summon effects. Lastly, with spell traps, Path let you cycle back 3 Yang Zings to deck to draw 2, and Creation let you, if a monster you control
Both are
destroyed,
just good
summon a Yang
cards,
Zing from
yeah.
deck once per turn, being effectively an additional Yang Zing float. Yang Zing would have its rounds of experimentation off of this initial wave, but was considerably slower than both Teller and Shadal, leaving it easily as the weakest of the 3 core archetypes. The last 2 archetypes here were actually both TCG exclusive archetypes, with Konami of America aiming to introduce 2 different
Kaiju?
archetypes here to build out over the course of the next few core sets, rather than sinking all their time and effort into Noble Knights 2.0. The first of these was Yue, a series of warriors.
Oh, Yue. Kaiju's later.
Another Yue to hand once per turn. This first wave was Mighty Slugger, who stuns cards and effects while attacking. Perfect Ace, able to discard on the opponent's turn to negate any card or effect once per turn. And Stadium, a field spell that searches a Yue.
This card's name in German is Perfect Ass. I know some of my friends who like buy and sell in Germany or whatever, or like in Europe, and they'll come back and sell cards in America. They'll always buy this card in Germany because people will buy it in America. Perfect Ass. You want that perfect ass UA?
UA had the bones to be a decent rogue level deck here with this start, but absolutely needed more support to go anywhere, especially needing a no tribute normal summon specifically to be able to trigger Stadium reliably. The second, and easily more important of the two, was Burning Abyss, a series of level 3 fiends based
Let's go! All my BA homies rise up.
Automatically destroyed if they share the field with a
So Burning Abyss, you guys often hear me joke about Burning Abyss's viability, right? Because I never actually played the deck at the time, right?
Best deck, easily.
I do like quite Abyss. I do like Burning Abyss quite a lot, though. I always thought it was really, really cool. It's just kind of like, I never actually thought it was the best deck.
Boo.
so I never actually played it from a competitive perspective.
Boo.
But I do think the cards are pretty damn dope and also really fun.
This was the best deck.
Always, like, for example,
This,
this one, I
people
played,
just hadn't experimented with it because it was brand new TCG exclusive. But once it got to refine the list and people figured out how to solve it, this was the best deck for sure. This was the best deck, absolutely.
Shadol, the year after, I always played Necros and all that. I always ended up finding other stuff that I liked more, and I always had, to be fair, a relatively easy time against Burning Abyss as well. Like Shadol would cook Burning Abyss, Necros would cook Burning Abyss, all that kind of stuff, right? And then in 2016, I played that Pendulum.
Just realizing Seer's a pig. He is supposed to be a boar. He is a boar. This is like the hound, and this is your demon.
That also cooked Burning Abyss. So somehow, no matter what I played, it always just had a freaking easy time against Burning Abyss, right? And so the way I remember Burning Abyss is that I don't know, I would just beat it every time. I like that. There's like I think this is a phase where I go years of playing against Burning Abyss at major events, and I don't think I ever lost to it. So
I mean, I felt the way playing Burning Abyss against Shadols and Tellers. So we'll have to fight Josh.
Non-Burning Abyss monster, it could all be special summoned from hand while you control no spells or traps, with each also having an effect when sent to grave. With graph summoning a Burning Abyss from deck,
I'm telling
Seer summoning
Farfa,
a
you
grave,
don't have to. I already did plenty of times. He knows this.
And Skarn, who searched for level 3 Dark Fiend in the end phase of the turn at sent to grave, with these effects sharing a hard once per turn with their summon effects. They would also receive an Exceed monster in Dante, a rank 3 that could attach and mill up to 3 to boost his attack by 500 for each card milled that turn, swapping to defense mode if he attacked, recurring a BA to hand if sent to grave. Lastly, Traveler could summon any number of Burning Abyss monsters sent to grave that turn. While it seems like this was
It's a
only
really
small wave,
dope
which it was
design,
being only 5
though.
cards
Like, the
total,
artworks and all
Burning
that,
Abyss
the idea
goes
behind
this
it,
way
I
to be
think is
an
really
absolutely
cool.
dominant threat in the metagame for the foreseeable future, similarly to Shadol.
They don't really make it like this anymore.
You'd love to see that in Master Duel. I don't know if you could. I'm also so BA was one of the hardest decks to play, and I'd have to actually like relearn it because it is hard. And I played so much Yu-Gi-Oh back then, and I practiced so much to get good. Josh played Farfa versus Necros BA. BA was such a hard deck. Farfa, I can bet you made mistakes. Even like now, I could point out mistakes. BA was like so complicated. It was rough. So I don't know if I may have to like relearn the fucking format, which is not easy to do. But I'm confident with BA. Very confident with BA. That was when I first started doing well, and like I felt really good. I kind of missed the skipped the middle step of being like above average. So like, I was like, insane with BA. I was really good, and then BA died, and I went back into the shithole, and then had to build my way back up into like eventually being insane.
With 1500 or less attack.
Also depends on which BA format. They're also different. Exactly, they were not the same at all. In the context of Necros versus BA though, I think BA is the best in all 3 of the 3 different versions: the BA PK, the initial BA, and then Trap BA. I was good with Zoo, yeah, but I wasn't as insane as I was with BA. BA, I was perfecto.
Although impacted now, it was certain to get more support over the next few years, like how Stardust and Utopia had before. Artifacts would receive Lancia, who was interesting as it didn't have to be on field for its effect as opposed to its kin, able to tribute itself from hand or field as a quick effect.
Toxic, look at that. Shun it.
Nefarious Archfiend Eater of Nefariousness is a level 4
that card's cool.
from hand if you control a spellcaster, able to pop a monster on your field in the opponent's end phase to summon it.
Oh, this card in cube, the all-type cube.
Specifically, as could be used as both Exceed material and as a way to pop your monsters for their effects. Battery Man 9-volt, on summon, searches a Battery Man monster and doubles its attack and defense, destroying itself in your next end phase.
Oh, this is cool. So my dad loves Battery Man. I don't know why, but I remember this came out and I built him a Battery Man deck, and this was another deck that he played for a while. This is approaching the last formats though that my dad played because I was starting to get older and I need him to, I guess, babysit me at events.
For the deck, in addition to being summonable off of Charger, that it would help Battery Man see rogue level play and success in the Castel the Skyblaster Musketeer was a new rank 4 that could either detach 1 to flip a monster face down or detach 2 to spin away a face-up card. Being an extreme
Josh on Duel Night when? I'm sure if he came to Canada, Sam would be happy to have him on. That being said, the same reason Farfa's not on Duel Night, he just doesn't come to Canada. Although I know Farfa's been straight up invited. I don't think Josh has.
Magical Spring, let the user draw cards equal to the face-up spell traps the opponent controls. Then discard equal to the face-up spell.
This card is one of the coolest bait cards ever, but it's almost never actually correct.
The Monarch Stormforth allow the user to
we tried it recently for Snake Eye. It's not it. It's not it.
Oh no, not Monarchs. Oh no, not Monarchs. I'm not ready yet. I thought that was 2015.
Soul exchange for many tribute summon focused decks, like Monarch.
It comes out a while later, yeah.
Spin that monster back, dealing 1,000 to the user for each. Being a considerable
Josh never leaves Germany. I don't know if this is true, but maybe he just doesn't like hate. Maybe he's scared of flying. I don't want to like put that out there and then like him get upset. I've just like something noticed like just by like I don't being in the community. He takes trains when he can, and he avoids them because of environmental impact. Okay, sure. So I guess maybe he has said it to you guys, but he doesn't like flying for personal reasons. Maybe it's a mix. As for environment, okay, that's fair. I guess I don't watch him enough to know that I never actually directly asked him the question. I don't inflame. Being scared of flying is not like that crazy. So like if that was a legit reason, I wouldn't have flamed him before. I don't think it's that insane. but sure. It's nerve-wracking. I also don't like flying, but I push past it because I care more about traveling. Like, not even just the competing, just the seeing the world thing. Today you learned Josh is vegan. He is. And so I remember for Worlds, like they ask your dietary restrictions at Worlds, like on the like before you get there. So because they do a bunch of catered meals and stuff, and it's supposed to be so that everyone's taken care of. However, it's just not. Like most often they just ignore whatever the hell you write down. And so the finals of Worlds, they had a catered meal for us. The Master of the Worlds, you got my team and Josh's team. And Emery can't have pork for religious reasons. I can't have pork for religious reasons. And Josh can't have any meat. And every single dish they had pork. We were just eating plain rice before finals. Like just plain rice. Like all three of us. And then our reps like did go and eventually find us food because we complained. I mean, we have a right to complain because it's kind of ridiculous. It was kind of rough. I remember like they said, oh, we got pizza for you. And I'm like, I don't even like pizza, but like the pizza had pepperoni on it. That doesn't fucking like what? Like, I'm Muslim? No, it's kosher in Judaism. Emery is Muslim. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure I asked him about it, and that's what he said. But yeah, we can't have pork. So neither of us could have pork. We were just laughing. Like, we're all sitting there eating our fucking plain rice. Literal just plain steamed rice. Very nutritious meal to get ready for Worlds.
Construct using fusion stack material requirement. Without question, Duelist Alliance would completely change the game as we knew it forever.
It was like a pork soup, pepperoni pizza, a pork curry, and those were the three dishes we could choose from. Rice is a great side dish with just plain.
With another set release occurring between then and now, which itself would be a monumental change for the game as a whole.
Wait, what is this?
2014
Megatins.
Oh, Megatins, right.
Set type, reprint set, major strategies, every single relevant card from Tachyon to Valiant. Impact, lowering the price of the previous meta. The 2014 Megatins would be a new yearly staple in the game as a whole, bringing reprints for every powerful card from a core set release in the previous year.
No soy sauce? No, there's no soy sauce. Plain rice is an act of terrorism. What did you want me to do, man? What did you want me to do? Eventually they got me like, when they have hamburg steaks, they call them, when it's just a hamburger patty. Like a thick hamburger patty with like either a black pepper sauce or a curry sauce with it. I'm like, all right, well, and that's what I ate instead. And they gave it to me like an hour later. It was whatever, but Salisbury steak, I've never actually tried that, so I guess that's what it is. Hamburg steak. It is not great, but it is edible, so it's fine.
With this one covering Tachyon, Judgment, Spectres, and Valiant. In addition to these reprints, they also came with 10 promos that also guaranteed certain reprints. Every mega pack included one secret, ultra, super, and
Megatins
rare.
are great.
All
We
the
all know
cards
that.
with
Like,
Megatins were a great
we all know
step
this
forward for the
nowadays.
game.
This is 10 years ago. For now, like nowadays it's normal that they do this every year. Back in the day, this was freaking like that was insane. I think this was received almost the same way that we received the rarity collection this year because it's never been done before, and we were just like so happy about it.
And they made improvements too as we went along. I think 2019 was peak.
Constellar Omega and Sombre, Divine Dragon Knight Belgrand, Evil Swarm Exaton Knight, and Kerkion, the Sacred Sword, Silent Honor Arc, Star Eater, the Sylvans, Transmodified,
Okay, now we're listing every card that we've already listed in the
That rank of Magic the Astral Force, people kept trying it in BA because they'd rank up Dante into Pallades, Constellar Pallades, and that is one of the best rank 5s like ever. Still good, like by today's standards. However, it just wasn't worth it. That card was cool though, wasn't terrible.
To this, the 5Ds Manga Volume 6 would release here, giving us Hot Red Dragon Archfiend, a level 8 synchro that popped all other attack position monsters on the field once per turn.
Is this the one that misprinted? No, so the misprint with this is it just says Destoy. It doesn't have the R in it. They all say it, by the way. It was just really funny. It's random, like who cares? But like, it's the same thing as the Chaos Emperor Dragon that came out in the Lost Millennium Special Edition like 20 years ago. And instead of saying Yor, it says Yoru, like Yoru. And it's just like the entire text is messed up. And it's like, okay, nobody proofread this. That's cool, I guess.
The opposite of the original RDA, who nuked defense monsters. YCS Madrid would be the first YCS of the era, taking place.
It's on Josh one, right?
Almost immediately, we'd see the result of the new releases and how they.
You see the smirk there, yeah.
Shadal, Satellar Knight, and Burning Abyss would together take over 3/4 of the top cut representation here, which would actually grow more substantial over the course of the following months.
There's also a
Burning
chamber.
Abyss would see 4 top spots here, with a couple of extremely notable inclusions seeing play here in this build. Thanks to
Yeah, you can see the Supply Squad and this. These were both bait. These are both terrible. Ew. These cards also both sucked in BA, by the way. This was like a huge bait one. Everyone thought this card would be playable because you can turn it off with Dante anytime. However, I actually really hated Emptiness in the deck because it really turned off your floating abilities. And that is the absolute biggest core reason to play this deck. And you really need to play this deck more for value and for grind than you do for flooding your opponent out. So Emptiness was a big no-no for me, and I avoided it in this deck. And I think that was a big issue when people played it. Fiend Chain is rough as well because blocking spell trap card zone, as well as not getting great value, really wasn't good. Breakthrough skill was far and away better than it. And as Denko Sekka came out and became better, which isn't yet, it'll come out next set. Then Valor was solid for beating Denko and Exciton.
Many other monsters would be
This
played here to
dick,
help
man.
fill the gaps for
Come
now,
on,
such as
man.
Rise Up for tributing over a special summon
Come
DA,
on,
and
just
Mathematician
play
for jumping
Shadol.
DA for setup. One card though that was absolutely not a space filler was Tour Guide, who could summon any Burning Abyss from deck with her effect, negating their destruction condition.
Good old Tour Guide. About to get hit again.
DA and trigger their effect. Was commonly hitting Storm this way, as Storm's end phase search could also
There's a
grab
Grant
Tour
Mole
Guide.
in your
Another
side.
interesting tech piece here was Rank Up Magic Astral Force, able to turn a spent Dante into Constellar Pleiades,
Which
able to
was
add itself to hand
bad.
draw if you know that you
Oh, I
can.
remember that you could combo Granosaurus into Volcasaurus. That was funny.
Largest slice, feeling very similar to
Shit
Control
deck.
to the previous format,
Ew. Why does that memory even adversary in his deck?
relied heavily on to make up for its limitations. As standardly, you can make a 3-material rank 4 easily, but beyond that, relied heavily on resource management between copies of Altair and Deneb to carry the grind game, with Stellar Nova Alpha specifically being one of the most key pieces of their back row lineups. Shadol would take half of the top 32 representation, as well as first place piloted by Joshua Schmidt, utilizing 3 Moral Talk and 1 Fearless to cover the light requirements.
He is so young.
Oh, I love this deck, man. The double cyclone, dude. The double cyclone.
This is 10 years ago, right? So what? He's 18. Yeah, he was young for sure. Double cyclone, random double cyclone. This looks. I mean, yeah. I mean, this looks like a real deck. Before you have a bunch of random one-ups. I mean, I don't like this. I guess everything else is like clean.
The thing is, at the time, I didn't feel that great about this tournament, because of what happened in top 4, right? Where I summoned the wrong fusion with Super Poly, and so I always felt bad about that, because I mean it was not on purpose. It was 100% an accident. But
The incidents, yeah, where he makes illegal play, it happens.
Like,
I'm not.
Thinking,
Yeah.
like, oh, my first YCS
His
win,
chat is spamming
really
chat,
counts
chat,
or whatever,
chat,
you know,
chat.
like, I didn't deserve to win, and it felt really bad at the time. Even though I had been working towards winning a tournament for so long, right? I'd been waiting for it for so long, and then for it to be like overshadowed by that, it was not easy for me.
It's
even
rough
though
for sure.
always
Yeah,
knew it
I
was
can
an
see that.
accident,
Never
right?
thought of
Like,
it in
I
that
didn't do it on purpose
context.
and all that. It didn't help that people were really mad about it too. Like the Italians, which I mean, understandably, I guess, but like, I don't know. It's nowadays I can look back at it and I can say, yeah, I worked really hard for it, and I did. I do think I deserved to win a YCS at the time. So it is what it is. I can live with it. I know that it wasn't, you know, that I didn't do it knowingly, right? It was just a mistake. But yeah, what happened? So my opponent had, it was top 4. It wasn't even the finals, but it was top 4, and my opponent had a Shadol Construct and a Black Dragon Hollow Serpent, and I top decked Super Poly. And I didn't realize that, well, I fused the Construct and the Black Dragon Collar Serpent, and in my mind it was like, okay, there's a Shadol, which is the Shadol monster, and there's also a light. So I summoned Construct, right? I summoned Construct,
Which you cannot do because it was a dark and a Shadol.
but obviously it was a Shadol in a dark and not a Shadol in a light. So yeah, I messed it up. It was a mistake. I summoned the wrong fusion. I do think, for what it's worth, I do think I would still have won that top 4 match if I had summoned the correct fusion, which was Winda. But at the time, it felt really bad for me. It felt really bad to me. My opponent was really mad about it too after they found out, right? Because during the time, it was a feature match, right? It was a feature match. My opponent didn't realize it. The judges didn't realize it. No one realized it. And then we finished all that, you know. And then before the finals happened, my opponent came back and was like really mad about it. And I was like, you know, I was kind of in shock as well. And then they did a whole thing. They did like the Konami did like an investigation as well on it before we even got to play the finals. They checked like the footage to try and find out if they thought it was intentional or not or whatever, and they reached the conclusion that it wasn't intentional, so I was allowed to play the finals. All that kind of stuff. It felt really bad for me, having worked, like, I feel like worked my ass off for months or years to get to the position to finally win a YCS, and then for it to have happened in that fashion was like freaking yeah, it was bad.
What is important, what's cool to note, like, to mention as well, is he didn't tilt. That is a really big skill in and itself. That despite all that happening, he's talking about being flustered ever, that he didn't tilt and throw the finals. Because was that the first time Josh made the finals? And he did win. He didn't get second, because a lot of people in that position, you'd probably even you get forgotten almost because you would have got second, but you'd be so kind of thrown off by everything that happens that you can't focus properly in the finals. And then a skillful format like this was a good format. I think this was better than the rest of 2014. This was great. I love this era. Then you are just at a disadvantage. Being able to recover is important.
Time for years.
And there's already enough pressure being on stream in the finals of a YCS.
I never felt like it was a deserved win. When looking back, nowadays I can think a little differently on it. But yeah, it was rough.
As well as providing access to BLS on a whim. Also very notable here was a card in the side deck that would become a major trouble point for many players in the meta, being Super Polymerization. The card up until now had seen very little play due to never having a deck it could.
Oh yeah, fuck. Super Poly was so crazy. I mean, it wasn't that good against BA, so from my perspective, it was never like the crazy thing, but the card was sick.
A significant advantage moving deeper into the format. The other side here is how Shaddoll Fusion was effectively a boss monster and 2 foolish burials at any point the opponent left an extra deck monster on the field, which would continue growing in power as the format went on. With these decks, we would also see the rise in one particular trap card. Vanity's Emptiness was now seeing play in literally every deck of the format, usually at 2 to 3 copies.
Nah, it was bad in BA. I stand by it.
Positive note, double cyclone here in the main deck might look weird to some of you guys because it's like technically a worse MST, which I'm citing, right? So the reason why I was playing double cyclone in this deck was it had multiple reasons, but basically I was really worried about drawing dead moral tax, right? I didn't like that part about my deck is that, like, I mean, the artifact engine I think was really strong, but drawing dead moral tax was quite annoying, right? And so I wanted another card that would enable my moral tax, right? And double cyclone would be able to do that. And the thing about double cyclone, the reason why it wasn't actually worse than MST, which is something that's hard to believe, but I mean, double cyclone was not worse than MST at the time, because the main reason the main use for MST was Vanity's Emptiness, right? You wouldn't really MST face down back rows very often because, I mean, there's Sanctum, there's Moral Attack, there's Shadow Games, all that kind of stuff. You wouldn't blind MST very often.
Wasn't good.
So the way you would simply do it is you would just activate your Shaddoll Fusion or whichever card you want to activate. Mainly it was Shaddoll Fusion, right? Activate Shaddoll Fusion. If your opponent has Emptiness, you can just go double cyclone, your Shaddoll Fusion, and the Emptiness, and it's the same thing as if you had MST. It doesn't matter that it destroys your own card because you can just pop your face up Shaddoll Fusion. Right?
That's fair, but why not side more double cyclones then? Is what I'm curious about.
Emptiness is not an argument because some people said that in chat right now. Owning your MST would out your own emptiness the same way, right? You can just MST. You can even MST your opponent's card, and if that goes into the graveyard, then your emptiness dies. Like, that's not an argument. You can do the same with MST. But the scenario specifically, so double cyclone was basically the same as MST almost all the time, unless you drew moral attack. Because if you drew MST with moral attack, you had to MST your own moral attack to make it live. Whereas if you had double cyclone, you could double cyclone your moral attack and their back row. So in that
there you go. I guess it gets worse post side when people start playing like non-fusion area.
Your opponent would have a set emptiness.
And other floodgates, macro. Those, I mean, those did pop up. Like, you start seeing more stun decks kind of show up at this point with like Defissure and those type of cards.
First recipient of the new season's YCS prize card, Ascension Sky Dragon, which, while possible to summon, was not nearly as useful as previous season's Giant
unfortunately.
YCS Toronto would be held the same weekend, being another top 16 sealed event. Being the first
So I remember I lost in the bubble. Man, I remember I lose game 1 to Sahabi. I played Sahabi, the world champion, on the bubble this event. And I lose game 1. He's playing Teller, terrible deck. I'm playing Infernity, also terrible deck. But it's all I could afford. I remember I in full Infernity combo him. I set like 3 break and a barrier. And I'm like, all right, that's sick. And then I pass. He goes Curry Bandit. And he mills a bunch of artifacts or whatever, and a bunch of garbage, playing Teller with Curry Bandits and artifacts. And a Soul Charge. I had Soul Charge his hand. I didn't negate it because I didn't think it mattered too much. I was going to pop all his back row and kill him. I was like, he had 4 back row. I'm going to pop all 3 back row, and then I'll be good. Anyways, I go end phase break, hit a back row, it sanked him. And he pops my Infernity, so I can't use break. I can't use barrier. So I kill 2 more back row. They're both 2 more sanctums. So he kills the Necromancer for follow-up, and he kills the barrier now. And then draw phase, call the Haunted's back. Moral Attack kills my last card. And I'm like, what the fuck? Now I actually am losing. I was like, I can clear his field and remake a small field. But he added Soul Charge off Curry Bandit and go Soul Charge back, Deneb and 3 artifacts make Pallades, and I just die. And I'm thinking, I can't believe I end phase popped 3 Sanctums to lose this game. That was just another in the story of many bubbles for me. That was yet another bubble, and it was very discouraging. But that is Yu-Gi-Oh!
First one played with a new Battle Pack 3, but arguably just as notably, the entire top 32 would be filled out by the new Duelist Alliance decks, with Shaddoll once again taking the lion's share.
That could have been me.
After the draft cut, piloting Shaddoll to the top 16, notably playing 3 Super Poly in the main to handle all of the Duelist Alliance matchups. Something else that would become very much a trend in the community following this specific top would be the inclusion of Upstart Goblin at 3 copies in many 40-card decks. While the trend had come and gone a few times before in the past, this card would see a massive spike in popularity following Hoban's usage, with the term Upstart Hoban being a common occurrence with a theory of playing 3 Upstart.
I mean, it's funny that you bring this up now because this has been a thing for the entire year already, maybe even 2013.
2013. It started showing up in like Ravine Ruler format. It was Upstart and Reckless Greed. It was both of those. And when he was playing the Jigunity deck with like instead of Dragon Rulers, he played Jigunities, and the Upstart deck with Upstarts with Recklesses and everything. This was a good deck though. I like this deck. I think this is probably better than Josh's. Although I think like the traps are more valuable than it maybe appear. A Poly Soul Charge. I liked the Thunder Dragon version. Thunder Dragon was cool because Thunder Dragon lets you make Pallades with Soul Charge. And there were some cool plays you could do with like Armageddon Knight as well with Soul Charge. Because people weren't playing Soul Charge, I think, that much. What was Josh playing? Did he play Soul Charge? He didn't, right? Yeah, I mean, like, the deck would play very different. Like, you don't get to play Mathematician when you play Soul Charge, which is worse, because Mathematician is very good. But Armageddon Knight, send, like, Shaddoll Squamata, send Beast, draw a card, and then you can go Soul Charge, bring back the Squamata and the Beast, and go Castel. And Castel's second ability is to turn a card face down. So you turn the Shaddoll Beast face down, and that's like a really strong setup. Then the beast flips up to draw 2, discard 1. Now, obviously, it's a bit worse than the mirror match because you set up, you turns your shit off fusion live. But you combo with like emptiness, and like there are other things you could do. Also, Thunder Dragon was good because it was lights to fuse with. But also, you just like, you can go like Thunder Dragon, get 2 Thunder Dragons, fuse them away with Shaddoll Fusion turn 1, then Soul Charge back 2 Thunder Dragons, and then 2 level 4 Shaddolls or whatever. You can make, you know, Pallades plus 1/1. You'd make then a Dweller. Dweller was good too, because, you know, if they Shaddoll Fusion, you wouldn't be as bad. You make Pallades, Construct, Dweller, and draw a card, and search a card, and be like, go. That was just very good. You probably fine. Although obviously the issue with that though is with Construct and Pallades in the field, your opponent can go Super Poly, Pallades, Construct, make their own constructs. And that was a real thing. But if people were playing more trap decks like Josh, like the heavier trap decks, this was like, if you're being aggressive with Soul Charge, at least game 1 it was way harder for them to win. Game 2 you had to be more careful, but game 1 was definitely rougher.
You bring this up now because this has been a case with 3 upstarts.
Lima would be the following week, but unfortunately we have no information at all about this particular event other than knowing the winner was.
But what event?
You're effectively playing a 37 card deck. YCS Lima would be the following week, but unfortunately we have
Oh
no.
yeah, I don't remember this either.
Other than knowing the winner was Germain Pina, who we don't even know the deck of. Over the next few weeks, a few changes would hit the game one after the other. The first being the release of the game's Zexal World Duel Carnival, which brought its promo cards Night Express Night and Special Schedule. Cards meant to help enable
You know that was a thing.
strategy, specifically around Gustav Max at the time, but for the time being would be irrelevant. Following this would be another Banlist update, taking effect on October 1st, and would be aimed at solving a few of the early issues with the format as well as bouncing out some of the previously hit cards. Newly limited were Inverted the Archfiend, a hit to the world's winning deck as is tradition, Soul Charge, a massive hit to the 3 of staple,
Good riddance.
power play of Shaddoll, and Glow Up Bulb and Raigeki, both returning from 0. With Raigeki specifically.
Oh, Bulb was sick. So I remember, so before I went to my BA stint, I really didn't start playing BA straight away. I love BA, but at first I couldn't afford the cards. Eventually I won enough money from locals or whatever to be able to play BAs and shit. Also able to afford the decks. The decks weren't crazy expensive, which is thankful. I remember Bulb came off the ban list, and Black and White Dragon reminded me of Tengu. So I just built like this Shaddoll Black and White Dragon plant deck that was super fun. And like I didn't have a YCS at the time, so that's what I played for months.
Format of Grave Triggers would have to be seen. Newly semi-limited, and all returning from 1, would be Gale, Gores, Ceasefire, and Transmigration Prophecy, all of which has since passed their relevance. Lastly, Unlimited were Coach Soldier Wolfbark, Formula Synchron, Magician of Faith, and Rhoda, with many of these turning heads were previously.
This is a cool thing about that I'm noticing in this video, and I think I noticed it in the previous one as well. They are relatively quick to revert changes that they know are not necessary anymore. Like I think it was during this year that Wolfbark got limited, and the same year it goes back because they
I don't think
okay, it's a little past.
That's interesting. I don't think I noticed that in respect to like when I was in the 2014. It felt like it had been a while, but a lot of stuff had changed since Wolfbark got limited. But yeah, it really wasn't that long. It was less than a year.
It's something that I'm hoping they can do soon as well when they look at something like Sharvara. I'm hoping they can do the same thing with Sharvara. I think sometimes, like I'm looking specifically at some stuff from TOS format right now. Like there was no reason for stuff like Gazelle or Harp Horror to be on the ban list for this long, right? I don't really understand why that was the case, right? I don't know. Maybe it's not been that bad outside of these. I don't know exactly. I can't think of other examples right now. But like specifically, Harp Horror and Gazelle were like on there for way too long.
Yeah, but Colossus should stay there as much as that's my baby.
Taking place on October 5th.
To sell new products, no, but that's the thing, right? Look, this is the first event after this list, and people are still not going back to playing Fire Fist, right? And the same thing is true right now. If they bring back Sharvara now, people are not gonna go and play Unchained in masses and ignore the new cards.
Watch me.
Some people might play.
Watch me.
Play Unchained.
I think that's a little bit fishy. Yes, I do agree that he should be unmanned stuff a little bit faster. However, we saw that with Unicorn, they put it to 2, and they actually did bring it back to 3. But because of the hits, Cash actually became somewhat viable again. It wasn't because of Unicorn, but it almost makes you wonder, like, maybe they should have not done that to Unicorn. And I think if you hit Fire and put Shavar back to 3, and with Unchained support coming, that deck will be good.
Completely fine.
By Unchained support, I mean Ubel.
And once again, the Duelist Alliance decks would take almost all of the representation, being 31.
Oh, this is one Billy's 60 card deck. This deck was so much fun. Right, so I played the Plants Doll deck for a while, and then I switched to this because this deck is just a blast. This deck is actually so much fucking fun. It's awesome. I don't know if it's actually the best deck because this was still draft, but the deck was solid. Like it wasn't that bad. It wasn't a bad deck, and it was so much fun.
Break would be crowned the winner after draft. Piling his way to top 16 with a 60-card control pile, being a hybrid
banger deck. This one's so sick.
I say let's go because it's Billy winning, but what the fuck is this?
The goo. It was the goo. This deck is awesome.
Space, though. Following this, the next Shonen Jump promo would be released, being Ebon Illusion Magician.
It sounds giga fun though. It sounds giga fun.
It was so much fun. I love that deck. Like I had no, like, as someone who only went to YCSs that were in driving distance for me back then, I had nothing for like 6 months, and that deck was awesome. It's like I didn't really get a chance to test in a skilled environment how good it would have been, but it was so much fun.
obviously intended to summon Dark Magician. In addition, it can also banish an opponent's card when a normal spellcaster attacks. This wouldn't be relevant at the time being, but a point worth noting here is that Yvonne's alternative summoning method was, at the time, not possible to perform in the TCG of overlaying onto a rank 6 spellcaster, as the card this was intended to
I didn't even realize that. That's hilarious.
never imported to the TCG due to Kazuki Takahashi, the creator of Yu-Gi-Oh! And the artist behind the card, refusing for censorship to occur on it, which would have had to happen for the TCG's localization policies at the time. This would lead into the next structure deck a few weeks later, and if there was anything
And we still don't have it.
absolute dominance of Duelist Alliance meta, I'm not sure this was it.
I was basically European at the time. Yes, but I mean, that's what normal people are like, right? Most people can't travel to every event. I'm older now, and I work for myself, so I have the luxury, but that's true. That's not true. We had Norito. We did. That was funny. We probably shouldn't have worded it like that. That's pretty funny.
Geargia Rampage.
This deck was terrible. Terrible, terrible, terrible. Augur was funny, but terrible. Everything else was even worse.
Geargia Rampage would
I
be
mean,
the
it's
third and
like, I think it had some new cards that were actually good. Like, there are some cards in here, had they been out earlier in the year, they would have been insane. Like, I think Geargia Attacker or something like that is pretty good. Or
Augur.
Geargia Augur as well. I'm not sure. But, like, it was just too late.
structure deck of the year, being aimed at supplying support back to Geargia, who up until very recently were an extremely capable deck in the
Europe doesn't have the luxury. Travel to America. I know it's a lot of time, a lot of money, but I travel across the world. It may be a little bit more time and money, but I've traveled to Europe and traveled to South America. They're far, but I make it work. I'm going to Colombia next week.
Attacker, who could pop spell traps up to the number of Geargias you control.
You coming to Indy? Let's go.
Augur, who searches a level 4 Earth Machine on
Augur's
roll.
the good one.
Mark 3, able to special Geargia from hand or grave when summoned by a Geargia card effect. And Geargia Geargiga XG, a 3 rank 3 that can attach with hero machine battles to negate all face-up effects from the opponent and stun
The reverse
effects
of
from the
GX.
attack, recurring a Geargia when sent to grave. These pieces were fairly hit or miss overall, with XG specifically being just too cumbersome to get out due to needing 3 level 3s to access, though the other 3 would find their own spaces.
I need to travel to Japan for YCSJ. You can't enter. If you look on the website, you cannot enter unless you're Japanese. Because I've tried, you cannot go. You did go, but you can't handle that much travel constantly. It is rough, and I'm probably slowing down as well because of it.
Which made the deck extremely cheap and easy to obtain for newer players, though it wouldn't be as successful as the new Duelist Alliance strategies. Speaking of new players though, another reprint set would be released just a week later, and this one was set to be a little hit or miss, but would reprint a few cards everyone needed now.
No one needed Vanity's Emptiness.
Legendary
Collection 5Ds, yeah.
October 24th.
Solid set.
Set type, reprint set. Major strategies, the 5D staples. Impact, reprinting a Buggy Boy and a Floodgate. Legendary Collection 5Ds is a weird one to talk about in retrospect solely because almost none of its reprints were.
And there are other good cards too.
Exactly 2, which were sorely needed at this point. Maxi and Vanity's Emptiness were those reprints, as both had
I mean, yeah,
exploded in
Vanity's
usefulness
Emptiness at the time, I think, was a 20 euro common. 20 euro common!
over the course of the last few months, and we're starting to reach higher prices.
Wow, it actually got reprinted again not that long later because they reprinted again in the Secret Forces, which is less than a year away.
Formula Synchron, 1-for-1, Starlight Ray, Battle Fader, Crimson Blader, Blow Up Bowl, Black Rose Dragon, the Blackwing Core, TG Hyper Librarian, and Shooting Quasar Dragon, which was the first EU legal printing of the Synchro Boss. YCS London would be held the same weekend, and unsurprisingly, we'd see no movement outside of the Duelist Alliance decks further solidifying their hierarchy structure. With Marcel
Is that an Evil Swarm in there?
And unsurprisingly, we'd see no
What the hell? What madman played Evil Swarm?
movement outside of the Duelist Alliance decks further solidifying their hierarchy structure, with Marcel Barberi taking the event on Shadal. This takes us to the final.
Marcel, no.
A meta shakeup would
Not,
be here,
that's
since the Duelist Alliance decks are
Marcel
starting to be
Burry
used,
versus
but maybe a new
Marcello
deck would be
Barberi,
This
yeah.
takes us to unsurprisingly, we'd see no movement.
What was his deck? Let's take a look at his deck for a second.
The Duelist
Yeah, it was a
Alliance
short
decks are
print,
starting
yeah.
to be getting new support, but maybe a new deck would be able to rise up.
I saw Burster Birth in there, I think, which was funny. No, we're not gonna look at it.
Structure, with Marcel Barberi taking the event on Shadal.
Is it the Burster Birth? It's the funny one. That one's, yeah. That's that card, pay 2k, revive a monster and face down defense. Again, very trap heavy build. Although with Soul Charge and Polyo wanting, it makes perfectly sense. Not like, yeah.
This takes us to the final core set of the year, and realistically,
Oh, Emery's the Evil Swarm idiot? Oh my god, of course he is. I know who Emery is. I know what you guys are responding to. Is Emery the Oh my god, I'm gonna fucking flame him for this. There's no way he was playing fucking Evil Swarm. Nah, you're fucking trolling. Good thing he lost. Klee. Oh wait, this next challenger is. If this was legal, Jake Quincy versus Emery. God, fucking Evil Swarm. He had it coming. Fuck me, man. Emery must have been so young because Emery's like only a bit older than me.
a meta shakeup wouldn't be here since the Duelist Alliance decks were starting to be getting new support, but maybe a new deck would be able to rise up into the heavily culled landscape. The new challengers. Release date, November 7th, 2014. Set type, core set. Major strategies, Clifford, Shadal.
The set was cool and Cancer because fuck Klee. Klee is one of my most hated decks of all time. I cannot stand it. Absolutely detest it.
Found to be an impactful one, bringing both new archetypes to the metagame as well as boosting the power levels of previously introduced ones.
I have a very polarizing relationship with Denko Sekka because I loved it at the time because you would use it to slaughter rogue decks. Then I hated it during my Paleo arc, and now I won a YCS with it again. So I don't know how to feel about Denko Sekka. I still hate her for what she did to me during Paleo format, but yeah.
Got two new archetypes worth talking about.
Paleo, I mean, Denko is, I'm okay with Denko. I don't love her, I don't hate her.
With this initial wave, we received
neat card.
Able to summon itself from grave by stacking a card in hand on top.
Hello, what deck would you recommend for a new player which is not too expensive? What are we recommending at the moment, chat, that's not too expensive? Because Fluanaries is one of the decks a little bit. It's alright, yeah.
Bear, able to be sent from hand to grave to set a toy vendor from deck, able to tribute itself to recur a polymerization from grave to hand. Dog, able to search a Fluffle monster or Edge of Sabers on summon. Owl, able to search polymerization on summon, able to pay 500 while on field to fusion summon a Frightfur. Cat,
Fluffles are a fun deck, but not good. I remember people were playing they were playing the Fluffle cards like Wings and Bear and Vendor and BA to go Nordlaris. That may have been a bit later though. That was funny.
Summon a monster from hand, otherwise discard it. Able to search a Fluffle or Edge of Sabers when sent to grave. While interesting on release, Fluffle would move to do very little initially, with almost all relevance for the time being relegated to Wolf's OTKs, which saw some minor rogue level play at the time, but would be an archetype to watch over the coming years. The other archetype is Clifford, a series of machine pendulums that are mostly able to be summoned without tributes, dropping their level and attack values when you do,
Fuck it.
are unaffected by monster effects of an equal or
Fuck this
lower level
deck.
normal summon, and having some
Cancer ass shit.
attributed or tribute summoned. This initial wave included Scout, a normal monster scale 9 pendulum who can pay 8 to search for a Klee card from deck while in the scale.
Minus 800. I can't believe that meme has lasted this long.
Disc, who summons 2 Klees from decks at tribute summon, popping them in the end phase.
This is 2014 Eldritch, by the way. If anyone's wondering.
It is worse.
If you haven't played back then,
It is worse.
comparison. This is 2014 Eldritch.
It's worse.
Able to attack twice and pierce.
Because it was just basically an advantage engine that could print monsters, and it had great synergy with all kinds of different floodgates.
But skill drain and emptiness were 3, so it was worse. Oh, I hated it.
It's like that. It's 2014 Eldritch.
To tribute summon. Towers, the only non-pendulum in the archetype, requiring 3 tributes to summon, is unaffected by spells, traps, and activated.
And that card existed.
Drops all special summon monsters by 500 attack, and makes your opponent send a card from hand or field to grave of their choice once per turn. And Sacrifice, an equipped spell that boosts by 300.
The original
in
Towers.
battle, treats that monster as 2 tributes for a Klee summon, and searches a Klee monster when
Emptiness but Pendulum go to grave. Yep.
The first truly good pendulum strategy. But rather than what pendulums would be known for being their primary trait, Klees would effectively use pendulum summoning as a means to an end, summoning out material to tribute over for their boss monsters.
So
was commonly
that's the thing. From a conceptual standpoint, I like Clifford because it tries to take a different spin on the pendulum.
No, Josh.
Using them as like tribute
All right,
and stuff
it's
like
over.
That was okay in my book. Like I thought
He's
that was
ruined it.
even. And I still
I can't.
think to
I
this
can't.
day they should try and
I can't look him anymore.
to
Can't look
make
at him.
pendulum cards.
How could he
work a
defend
little bit
Clifford?
differently, you know, have some creativity with the pendulum stuff and don't make it all just like one.
Something so indefensible like Clifford.
Pendulum spam or pile, whatever. Like maybe Harmonica. I haven't played much Harmonica, but they look cool from the design. I don't think they're very good, unfortunately.
Plays Runic after all. I don't hate Runic though.
So synergistic with floodgates. That was
He doesn't play Runic Stun. He played Runic Stun. It would be a different story, but that's not the deck he
The
plays.
idea behind it, you know, let's make a pendulum deck that works a little bit differently. You know, make like scales that don't allow you to pendulum summon other stuff. That was cool. It's just the execution wasn't ideal. Let's say it like that.
for Towers, being one of the strongest monsters in the game at this point, as it was almost completely unoutable.
Valence
So
was
this
so
discovery
close.
would actually be kept
Maybe.
under wraps for a few months. Because of this, as well as their ability to go back to normal attack values under skill drain, Clifford would find a place in the meta almost immediately as a stun strategy, which we'd see with the next YCS. Satellar Knight would receive a couple of new support pieces here.
Oh, I hate that deck. Oh, these were terrible. Oh, Trevor was broken. Trevor was so good.
By reloading their key resources like Altair, and Trevor
Ever summoned Sirius against me.
entire field on summon except for itself, able to detach one to hand rip the opponent for one card, reviving a Satellar Knight
I don't
with
think they
grave
played
while it still had material. Well, this would be an incredibly powerful second wave for the deck, plugging multiple holes in their
Trevor
strategy.
was good.
Satellar Knight would continue to be the weakest of the 3 Duelist Alliance strategies with meta relevance, which would become apparent over the next few YCSs. Shadal would receive a couple of new fusion pieces in Krista, a fire fusion that can negate a special summon.
El Shadal was really important. And Denko, and the black and white already. I know it was Denko and El Shadal, and then Shek was Grista never played. Yeah.
Construct being tied to like a Clifford Towers or something like that. I've never thought of it like that. I never looked at it in that much detail. Yes? Okay. I don't know how I feel about that.
Fusion, a quick play spell with the standard fusion conditions. While very unassuming, Shekinaga and El Shadal fusion would be almost instantly slotted in, with Mathematician filling the earth requirements and
El Shadal was so good.
For your fusions to dodge removal and disruption. Yang Zing would receive a couple of new pieces here too, and Xiao.
Oh, Jiao too. Right.
Monsters, discard 2 Yang Zing cards.
Very cool card.
With 0 attack and another with 0
Breakthrough skill.
Alti, a dark
Big rip.
makes his synchro unable to be stolen by the opponent.
When?
And Yazi, a level 7 synchro that can't be targeted with effects, can pop a Yang Zing and another card the opponent controls once per turn, and if destroyed floats into any worm in the deck. While still not meta, this support would iron out a lot of the early game issues Yang Zing faced, giving the deck an instant starter thanks to Xiao 2's swarming effect. Burning Abyss would receive a second wave of support here in Alec, who negates a monster.
Let's go. Alec, Calcab, my boys. Rubik, Mr. Pubic. I don't like him that much. Overrated.
It's important that they were more names. They just needed more names. The effects on these were barely relevant.
Calcab and Alec are my boys. I use them all the time. Pubic is not my man's, and Virgil is whatever. They're both like fine. Yes, I'm saying that intentionally. That's what I call him because I don't like him. I call him Pubic. Yeah. So remember Rubik leaked effect. So Omni is an old head then because he remembers. I can't even call this old anymore because there's still so much Yu history pre this. But when Rubik was announced, it had like this crazy effect. I can't remember what it did. I think it may have like drawn a card and been seer or something. It just had like ridiculous effects and made no sense. And it obviously did not have that. It just drew one. It drew one engraved effect. It had another effect, didn't it? I thought it had one other effect as well. If Rubik drew one as well, it'd be nuts. But the draw one is on Virgil, yeah, which is way worse. Virgil is overrated. The card was honestly the thing I used it for most was it's a seer could revive a 2500 attack monster. but Virgil is so overrated.
well received by the strategy, namely in that any monsters that had the BA summon condition and BA name would have been well received. With Rubik and Virgil doing numbers for the strategy, and the other.
And then we got Fire
UA
Lake.
would also receive another new wave in midfielder. Being a
Wait, what?
UA that can bounce a different UA to summon a UA from hand on.
You didn't talk about Fire Lake.
Who can prevent a UA from being destroyed once per turn on a quick effect. And Powered Jersey.
I guess he didn't talk about Traveler either. Traveler is one of the most underrated BA cards of all time from the last Duelist Alliance. Traveler is nice, especially with Draghig. Draghig Backjack Traveler was my goo, and people just didn't respect that. And to me, that combo was fucking nice, because if they didn't give it respect, it killed them. That shit was cool. And then also Fire Lake was like neat. Yeah, Travel Lake, well, like in the mirror, the way to get win conditions, either deck them out, which happened a lot, or Fire Lake Traveler, and you loop that and they die. That's the other thing.
An equipped spell that boosts a UA by 1,000 and doubles the damage it deals in battle against monsters, returning to hand if the equipped UA is bounced. While this wouldn't make UA meta, it would fill a major hole in the strategy thanks to midfielder being able to trigger Stadium Search on the first turn, which would let the strategy see minor rogue.
Fire Lake killed all your clean opponents. You have to draw it though. It's not easy to draw. When you played the Trapless BA deck in January the next year, and then it was a lot easier because you'd have like Kagna setups and stuff, but it still like wasn't the easiest.
Even with my Paleo PTSD, it's such a cool card.
Decks for stunning back row and potentially being used for construct summon, forming a variant of the deck known as Denko Dolls. Herald of Ultimateness was a level 12 ritual that could discard a fairy to negate any spell, trap, monster effect, or inherent special summon of a monster, being effectively a better version of the previously released Herald of Perfection.
Wait, I'm just realizing, if these are supposed to be Italians, the Burning Abyss cards, how are we supposed to pronounce them? It's not supposed to be Kagna, is it? It's supposed to be like Kanya? Huh.
Not seeing play now, but being experimented with over time. Herald of the Arclight was a level 4 synchro that contributed itself to negate any spell, trap, or monster effect. Provides a macro effect to
Kanye.
It's
Kanye.
Being experimented with for its field effects for now. Dark Rebellion Exceeds Dragon was a rank 4 that could detach 2 materials to seal half the attack of an opponent
Not.
permanently.
The card came up. PKs, let's go.
Stable play in various rank 4 strategies. Oasis of Dragon Souls with a continuous trap that
Cool
acted as a call.
This was actually huge because it gave Tellers more, another call to Haunted, which was very important. It gave more consistency. Because that's when the duck felt the scariest, is like Trigger plus call. And this gave him another way to do that. And then I remember I gave my friend the deck list he top regional with, and I felt like actually potential was like, so what people started doing later is they go to Vaudeo chain, send Christia, not Christia, Spell Canceller, and then revive it. What I was doing was I was doing the Satellar with Brilliant Fusion, because Brilliant Fusion would send Christia, or you go to Vaudeo chain, send Christia, and then you'd have six calls. You had 3 Oasis, 3 calls, and you bring back the Christia, and that'd be pretty solid. And then obviously Brilliant Fusion also gave you multiple normal summons to extend to the deck that was otherwise full of normal summons. And like Anukalai plus Altair was like, plus Brilliant Fusion was like really good. I mean, like they had real plays. That was fun.
Summoned a defense mode and made the summoned monster a worm. Seeing play in Satellar Knight for being copies 4, 5, and 6 of call. Solemn Soul was counter trap that operated just like
I have a Scolding, yeah.
and having to be the only card set to activate.
I think this card is not good, but
yeah.
Neat card. Until actually, I'd take the back until Zoo format, then it was kind of insane. Well, let's blame Norden for that. That's Norden's fault.
I mean, if they made this thing, unironically, if they just made it so you could fuse from hand or field, it would be a strictly better polymerization. That would have been kind of cool though. I don't know. The fact that it needs to be from field kind of makes it bad. It was good in Zodiac specifically, but outside of that, it never really got to do anything.
Eventually finding a home as a combo piece a few years from now. Lastly, number 39, Utopia Beyond, was a rank 6 that could drop all opponents' monsters to 0 attack on Exceed Summon.
I played this in something. I don't remember what though. Maybe it was in a different game, like Duel Links.
Seeing play in rank 6 strategies for its summon effect. Following 2 weeks later would be the Noble
They
Knights
didn't want to replace the OG,
which would bring
I
a couple of new cards to the Noble Knight strategy in Merlin.
I mean, you say that. You say they didn't want to replace it, but at the same time, it does share the same name, so you can't play both in the same deck at 3. It's not legal, right? It has the Harpy ruling to it, right? Where it has the same name, so you can't play both.
It was played in Penned, but I never really played Penned. I'm trying to remember where I played it in. Maybe it was Penned, and I'm just not remembering correctly.
Last chapter. But none of these would do anything to push Noble Knights into the meta.
These were fun, but they weren't good. I'm happy they exist. It was neat.
I wonder why they never brought that rarity back.
Prince of Honest, Valor, Darkhold, MST.
Oh, the rarity looks terrible. I hate that rarity. I play it for memes sometimes, but that's about it.
YCS Anaheim would take place 3 days after this on November 24th.
Oh, I thought it was perfectly split by 3. I guess that's not possible in top 32, but then freaking Satella ruins my day.
The final top 16 sealed event of the year. And though the Duelist
11, 10, 9, 2. Yeah.
Alliance decks would once again take large chunks of representation in the top 32. Clifford had rapidly risen to 2nd place in representation, utilizing stun tools to take advantage of the Clifford summon conditions.
The fucking links, that was funny.
Dust Tornado? Why is there Dust Tornado? What the hell? Why are you so mad about back row? Okay.
Provide the low scale
Someone is really worried of the.
There should be 3 emptiness in there, but yeah, this for sure was annoying. I think Skill Drain.
Triple spell shattering arrow. Holy.
Summoning using Scout, then bounce the Scout with its skill effect to allow another Clifford search in the same turn, thanks to Scout being a soft once per turn. Patrick Hoban would win the event in the draft top cut, piloting to top 16 using Burning Abyss, who did not publish his deck list from this event, marking a 2nd YCS win and 3rd major event win overall following Toronto this year and the NAWCQ the previous year. YCS Milan would be held 2 weeks later, and with the adjustments from the new challengers, Satellar Knight had completely fallen out of the top 32.
I don't want to talk about YCS Milan. I do not want to talk about YCS Milan. I got destroyed on feature match by freaking 6 Samurai.
And the round between BA Shadal and Clifford. Danielle Stella would take the event on Clifford, playing the standard Clifford lines as well as the now stable check links for his build. YCS Sydney.
Yeah, that's the more standard deck, the Skill Drain Emptiness. Oh, fuck that deck.
It hasn't appeared in the entire video. No one played that. Yeah, exactly. I lost round 1, and I had a feature match in round 2 against Super Heavy Samurai, so I was 0-2. I almost came back from it. I went like 5-2 or 6-2 and then lost round 9, I think. Oh, yeah.
Weekend on December 14th and would be the final YCS of the year, but unfortunately very little is known about this event due to the loss of data from the official Yu-Gi-Oh website changeover, causing us to not know any of the top 32 from this event. Peter made sure to take the event on Shadal, using both Dengo Sekka and the artifacts to provide the light for Construct Summon. And this would mark an end to the events of 2014 in the history of the Yu-Gi-Oh trading card game, with the meta fairly stable between Shadal, Burning Abyss, and Clifford's.
That's 2014 for y'all. Ironically, even though it's the year where I won my first YCS and it is very often regarded to as a really, really cool year, I don't actually like hat. I mean, it's just because I don't like hat format that much. The rest of it was still pretty cool. But I don't like hat format as much as people basically make it out.
Yeah, I don't love the hat portion. The first part is fine. I love the BA doll stuff afterwards. So I do look upon this format pretty fondly. I do like it for sure. And then next year's 2015. 2015, when we eventually get to this, my first top. Finally, I can give you guys some more experience about someone who's actually competing at the highest level. And it takes the first half of the year before we get there. But we get there, and then I'm in the mix as a player at least. I don't get my first win until 2017, however, but we get there eventually. You don't know why people romanticize hat when the other half of the year was so much better? It befuddles me too, but I also don't care enough to fight it. Anyways, one final shout out. Go check out Josh's channel and check out this video here. I'll post the links in the description. For this video and the original video, Law YGO, make sure you're subbed. Appreciate the taking the content and the reacts from these guys. We hope we had a good time, and yeah, I'll probably be posting these on YouTube. We've done these before, but unfortunately I didn't have a VOD channel at the time, so these are not saved, but we'll keep doing them because they are fun.